to this, you'll have to press the button on the microphone to talk. Otherwise, they won't be able to hear you. There's a button in the middle. There's a button in the middle here, Ron, that you'll press if you want to talk. On the microphone, you'll have to press the button. And that's how the people on virtual world will be able to hear you. If it's not green, Ron, people online won't be able to hear you.
Okay, test.
Got it. Good. Excellent.
Christmas and they let us in early. Went on one, wrapped the Christmas tree with moving blankets and just took that and sleeping bags and moving. Boys were little. We went and camped out.
You have, yeah, Catherine Vallon and Danielle Kraus as board members. So you have 5. Your choice. That's quorum, but you're totally your choice. No, Danielle's virtual. Danielle and Catherine are virtual. March. So I might just give my spiel again super fast. So for those of you who are in the room, in order for the people in virtual world to hear us, you need to press the push button on your microphones. It'll light up a little green button. Then they'll be able to hear you. They're somewhat sensitive, so I would recommend you turn it off if you're not speaking. But that is how they won't be able to hear you online if you are not unmuted from your microphone. It'll actually create a bandwidth issue, so we ask that you don't. You see, yeah, you need to pull mine. Yeah, we do ask that you don't, otherwise it might crash the internet a few times. If you joined the WebEx from your own computer in the room, yeah, because otherwise we've got 2 going on at one time and it's sensitive.
Great. I think there are enough of us here to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:04 p.m. Kate, would you take the roll?
Steve Carell. Here. Rhea Ortner.
Here.
Barb Hart.
Here.
Andrew Duarte.
Here.
Ron Mitchell.
Here.
Danielle Kraus.
Here.
Steve Roundtree.
Here.
Catherine Vallon.
Here.
Trustee Corvallin. Here. Thank you all.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Hearing and seeing none. I'd ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve I move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Ron. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. And Kate, will you take the roll?
Steve Carell.
Yes.
Rhea Ortner.
Yes.
Barb Hart.
Yes?
Andrew Duarte.
Yes.
Ron Mitchell.
Yes.
Danielle Kraus.
Yes.
Steve Roundtree.
Yes.
Catherine Vallon.
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Great, thank you. Do we have any public comment on non-agenda items? Do we have anyone from the public on, Miranda?
You do, yeah. You have Judy and Kathleen Chipai, as well as Scott Papich.
And do we have any public comment? Anyone raising a hand?
No one is raising their hand.
Great, thank you. Hearing and seeing none, let's move on to the first agenda item. Which is the request for matching funds for Nederland Transportation and Mobility Plan with Karen Blakemore, Trustee Karen Blakemore.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I have a request for matching funds for a Nederland Transportation and Mobility Plan. So the town would like to develop a plan that would give us guidance for 10 to 20 years around transportation. And some of the components of that would be parking, town shuttle, pedestrian bike paths, emergency egress, alternative and multimodal transportation, electric vehicles, connection to regional transportation, and of course, roads. So we're planning to apply for a funding through the Dr. Cog TIP program, $140,000. They require a 20% match minimum. That's $35,000. And so we'd like to split that with the DDA. We're requesting $17,500 from the DDA to be provided in 2023. This request is contingent on the BOT approving the matching funds from the town, their half, at the June 14th meeting, not the 21st. So the problem statement in the application, I've listed there. I won't read that, but basically this gives us like a comprehensive strategy to address all of the different issues that we have with transportation. And it gives us a long-range plan. The end result of this plan is a priority ranked list with cost of infrastructure projects, programs, and policies to meet both our current and our future transportation and mobility needs. So what we're planning to do is solicit request for proposals from at least 3 and up to 5 transportation planning firms in the fourth quarter of this year, and also choose a firm. And then in 2023, develop the plan. It will take a full 12 months. Let's see. So I looked at a couple different plans that were comparable to what we would be doing in Nederland to get an idea of cost. The Steamboat Springs plan was published in 2021. They had a budget of $176,000. The Erie plan was published 3 years prior to that, and they had a budget of $96,000. Their consultants recommended that we go with $100,000 to $150,000. But our needs are more, transportation needs, I think, more closely match those of Steamboat Springs, being that we're both mountain towns with ski areas close by and a lot of outdoor recreational opportunities. Additionally, a Steamboat Springs plan, I think, is superior to the one from Erie. It's more extensive and analytical. So we did run this by Alex Hyde-Wright, who is the chair of the Boulder County Subregional Forum Technical Advisory Committee for the DRCOG TIP funding. And that group scores all the applications from Boulder County. They give those scores to the state, and then the state makes the final decision on funding. So Alex is also a principal transportation planner with Boulder County. And what he said was he thinks that a Nederland TMP would be competitive call to project for several reasons. One is they like to provide funding to all of the different agencies within the subregion. And we're one of those agencies. We don't have a TIP application out for call to. 100,000 is not a large share of the funding. Boulder County has 60 million total. It's a good project. It will check a lot of boxes and probably score well. Now, when I was talking to him, I was looking at a budget of 125K. However, I think it needs to be 175K. There should be Ks in there. After looking at the Steamboat Springs plan and talking or hearing from one of the consultants on that plan. So TIP application is due on June 24th. Awards will be announced in September. It's not a grant, but a reimbursement contract where we pay the expenditures up front and then we get reimbursed for them. The minimum funding amount is 100K with the minimum match of 20K. If we don't apply for this round of funding or we don't win this round, we can apply again in the next subregional call. That would be call 4 in 2024. And Boulder County is projecting they'll have 20 million in that call. And I've attached the Steamboat Springs Transportation and Mobility Plan Statement of Work from Tool Design, a TIP application that's has a lot of it filled out, but is not totally complete. And then there's a couple links in here for the Steamboat Plan, the Erie Plan, and the TAC group. Happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Karen. Do you want to go around the circle and ask questions? You want to start, Rhea?
Thanks, Karen, for all your hard work. This is Rhea Brobel. So how will having this plan actually help Nederland get funding to implement these projects? You kind of mentioned that a little bit, I think, but I have a pretty strong feeling that Nederland already knows what it needs to do for a lot of these things. And so I'm always hesitant spending more money on planning unless it's going to result in actionable items. So can you talk a little bit about that more?
Right. So as far as funding from TIP in the future, like maybe in round 4, call 4, to implement a project. And, what they ask for in the application is they ask for prior scoping of the project, and they ask for a transportation plan that it's part of. So I think that's pretty typical
Yeah,
for
yeah.
grants.
I mean, like more specifically, I think we all know how congested it gets in Nederland during the high tourist season, ski season, and wouldn't it be great to have another bridge over the creek? And so if the transportation designers who are all, transportation professionals and expensive, say, put in their plan, this is what is needed, would that help Nederland in the future get funding for something like that? Is that your impression?
Yeah, that's correct. And
Okay.
the process for developing the plan is very similar to a comprehensive plan, where there's a lot of community involvement in the development.
Great, thank you. And Andrew,
Yeah, I think to echo Rhea's comment, which I think you answered, was, just if having some more clear plans you think would help get grants or move projects along. I was, one thing that caught my mind is, emissions. I guess the plan would address issues such as emissions, congestion, safety, and equity. I get less traffic, less emissions. Are there components of, are you seeking one thing? Is the plan give emphasis to any one of those more so than the other components, like more on emissions and congestion? Or is it more on safety and equity? Or is there is there any weight to those in the plan?
Well, that's a good question. I think it will be based on what the town desires the weights to be.
Okay. That's all I've got. Thank you.
great, thank you. And Steve Roundtree.
Thanks for bringing all the details together. I think kind of to Rhea's point, as long as it's a part of a step towards something, it seems like a great starting point. So that's all I have.
Great, thank you. And Ron.
I'm always reminding the board that our funding comes from a defined surveyed area, and the statute says that the funds should be returned to that area. This looks like a project that far exceeds the DDA area. And it's a plan, and I think our mission is to do projects. And as far out as this is, in terms of 10 or 15 years, the DDA dies in 14 years from now. So we have a limited life to produce projects that theoretically are to produce revenue within those surveyed boundaries. So I am sorry, but I cannot condone something that goes far in excess of the DDA boundaries. And it's very general. The details escape me in terms of how this could be applied. It's not clear to me as to where the DDA would benefit directly in terms of increased sales tax by producing a plan that will be carried out 10 or 15 years from now. So that's my comment.
Great, thank you, Ron. Do you want to wait till the end to respond, or do you want to respond now?
Can I respond? Okay. Just to clarify that the plan lays out guidelines for current transportation projects and future ones. So it's not all future projects. the earliest a project could start resulting from this plan would be 2024, because the plan would be done during the year of 2023.
I tend to agree with Rhea. I think Nederland knows what we need.
Great, thank you. Steve Carell.
Yes, thanks for bringing this to us. And I wanted to echo what Rhea and Ron said as far as, I think that for the
Steve, could you put the microphone closer?
yeah,
please?
for the projects that are listed on that, I do think that a lot of them are pretty clear at this point of, what we need to do. So I'm not too convinced that having this plan and, spending 170,000 to have a professional plan done would necessarily increase our chances of getting grant money down the road. But for me, that might be the only real reason I would want to do it. I'm sure, it might highlight something that we don't already know, but I don't think it would be money well spent just for the study itself, is my feeling. And I just had a couple questions for you as well. I was wondering, what does equity mean in that statement, in that paragraph?
Well, it has to do with mobility, and mobility meaning that people have access to transportation options that are timely, safe, and affordable.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I didn't understand that. And then also I was wondering, with the steamboat plan, has that one is it in the progress now, or is it been completed?
It's been completed. It is waiting to be approved.
Oh, okay.
So one component of this plan is a traffic analysis that's done to look at what our traffic patterns are currently and what they would be in the future. And it would, kind of engage the community on what their needs might be. We might need a pedestrian and bike crossing across Highway 72, across from the fire station and the community center. I know those are a little scary to cross because of the curves in the road, and the traffic is coming fast. And there are neighborhoods on either side that, people cross over. Maybe an electric shuttle that would pick up folks from the RTD Park and Ride, take them up to the new Wild Bear Nature Center, out to the skate park, the community center, around town, a circulator sort of thing. And maybe walk and bike routes along the highway. So this would lay out all those projects based on what our community desires, along with what our transportation needs are based on the amount of traffic coming through town, being more environmentally sustainable, providing more active transportation, and prioritize those with the cost, so that we could then, look at the top project and direct our efforts to that. So this is kind of a long-range plan for transportation, which I don't think we currently have. We have bits and pieces, and we have older plans, like we have the parking plan, and we have some transportation in the 2014 comprehensive plan, but we really don't have an overall comprehensive strategy to address our needs, all with our increasing number of visitors and changing desires within town. So
Thank you. And one other question is, has this been discussed more than once or even once at the Board of Trustee meetings? And if so, what is their take on this?
no, I've discussed it with Miranda and with Tom Hold, and they're supportive of it. I've also gotten feedback from both Alex Hyde-Wright and also the chair of the sub-regional forum that is more government-oriented. It's a short time frame because I just got on the board and was assigned to a transportation subcommittee. And this came up and it was like, oh, it's an opportunity that's out there for funds. We should go after it if we can. And we have, something that I think is a good application for those funds to get us started on meeting on transportation needs now and in the future. So it hasn't been brought to the board yet, simply because there wasn't a meeting before this one that I could bring it to. But it's going to go to them next Tuesday. And yeah.
Okay. And my last question is, I understand that you haven't brought it before the board yet, but what is your impression of, how much support? And particularly, I'm wondering if the DDA doesn't want to split the 20% match, do you think that would be a non-starter? Then the BOT wouldn't want to put all of the town's funds toward it.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I would try. I do know that from looking at the budget, we have an $8 million budget. Miranda, correct me if I'm wrong. And and it basically goes towards operations. And so we don't have a lot of spare funds available. That's why I was coming to the DDA, because the DDA is part of the town, the central business district, and they would receive benefit from this plan. Miranda, is that right about the budget?
Well, thank you, Karen, though, for answering all those questions.
Great, thanks. While Miranda looks for that information, perhaps we can hear from Danielle.
Thank you, Karen, for bringing us this information, for bringing it up to review. I do think that getting more information, finding out what the town needs, and having a plan is a good idea. So I appreciate that you brought this up. I do agree with Rhea and Ron in wondering how it fits in with all of our other projects, things that we need to be working on and focusing on finishing, and what our budget is, which I don't understand as well as they do. So I'm kind of following suit with what they say, though I do feel that this would bring good information. I'm not sure personally how applicable it would be and how well it would work for what the DDA does. That's my comment. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Danielle. And Catherine Vallon.
So it sounds to me, well, I think that Ron and several other people make good points, that anything that's good for the whole of our town ends up by attrition being good for our special section of the town, if you will. And I also think it's a point well taken that, oftentimes in a town as small as Nederland, and with the funding challenges that we always have, that we are looking for grant money, and they don't like to give out grants just because it's a good idea. They want to see that it's a good idea that's been studied and will work. And so I think that the study sounds valuable. I don't think that Steamboat Springs and Erie would have done it just to spend money and to get rid of money. And so I think that this is something that probably there's merit in, and we're being asked to match 10% of the cost. Even though the cost is fairly high, we're being asked to match 10% of the actual cost. And so I think it really bears serious consideration. And on the, well, I mean, like, I'm not looking to just burn money for no reason. Based on the information I've been given so far, I tend to favor it.
Great, thank you, Catherine. And Tanya,
Oh, hi, this is Tanya. I am having a hard time seeing how we compare in any way to what Steamboat spent. Because if they spent 175,000, we are so much smaller. And I mean, they own all that property up towards the mountain and it's just there are a ton. I feel like you could probably ask for less money because we are a lot smaller. We like nothing that the ski area does that impacts our traffic. Do we have any control over? And the town of Nederland limits are actually quite limited. Why do you feel like we need to get the same amount of money Steamboat spent?
Well, I did speak with the consultants who did the Erie plan, and they recommended at this time 100 to 150K, and I explained the size of the town and what our needs were. I think the way this RFP would work is we would let the consultants know what our budget is and see what they can do within that budget. I just based on the information that I have, I wanted to go a little higher than not enough. And I can see if we don't spend all the funds, if they could be reimbursed. In other words, I need to research if we request 140K, but only spend 120. I think that we wouldn't be required to match the full amount there, if you understand what I'm saying. Maybe Miranda could explain better.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Well, who's doing the study? Like, why does it cost so much?
Well, it takes a whole year, and they do a. You can look at the plans that are linked
Yeah, I saw
in the
that.
document.
Yeah.
So
Who's the company that does it? Anybody we hire? Like we choose who does the
Correct.
study? Or
Yeah.
is there
So for this year, October, November, and December, we would submit a request for proposal to transportation consultants, and somewhere between at least 3 and up to 5, and then we would choose from the proposal that they give us.
So what do you think is an immediate benefit to doing this besides the ability to apply for different grants with a document to attach to our other documents when we apply for a grant? What would be an immediate benefit to the town of Nederland?
Well, I'm in favor of long-range planning to be proactive instead of reactive, so that we can look to what we'll need in the future and work our way towards that point, and also prioritize projects. So,
I mean, as people have said, we all know, we can all list a couple things that need to happen and that don't happen right now, not even in the future, that would help our traffic flow. But this wouldn't in any way make those projects happen any quicker per se. It just would let us apply for more money to make it happen.
I don't quite understand what you're asking.
Well, as people have said, we don't need a study really to tell us. I mean, you mentioned 3 things right off the bat that we, could do to improve transportation in this town. So, I mean, I could list 3 things right now. We could all list 3 things right now that would be helpful. And it doesn't need a $175,000 study to tell us this stuff. So spending this kind of money, it's a lot of money, even though it's only 20% is town of Nederland's money. I'm trying to see if there's any benefit to this besides just the ability to apply for grants.
So I had a thought there to answer your question. So could you like rephrase your question but do it shorter, because I did have an answer but I forgot what it was.
Okay, well, I don't know if I can do it any shorter. I'm just saying we all have solutions to some of the problems that we could just list off right away. Like I would say, on the highway by First Street, we need an underpass or overpass for pedestrians so they don't stop traffic constantly during high traffic times. But that's been being said. It's been said for the past 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. It never happens. I don't know why the study is going to make some of these obvious changes occur any faster, except for the fact that you think it will help us get grants.
Oh, okay, thank you for
Is that
that.
true or not
So-
true? Yeah.
Okay, so this plan develops a list of projects, infrastructure projects, programs, and policies, and along with the scoping and priority for those projects. And so the scope is the cost and the effort involved, and the priority is based on what value it provides to the town. And so that's the benefit of it. Yeah, we may all have some ideas about projects that need to be done, but we really don't know what the priority is, nor what the cost and effort is.
Okay.
Great, thanks, Tanya, and thanks, Trustee Blakemore. I had just a couple of questions, and one of them maybe Ron can answer for us. When was the last time we did a traffic study?
Are you off mute?
Answer your question, it was a parking study in 2012 by the Walker Company. They did it in the middle of the winter on a Wednesday and a Thursday. And I don't believe it's germane now, and I don't believe it was germane then.
Great, thank you.
And Barbara, also there was CDOT once or twice in the last probably 7 years has done not an official study, but they've run numbers along 119 and checked out the intersection at Lakeview that always backs up, and done. They did something that Chris Pelletier had presented to us in the last year or two. So there were two, not full studies, but traffic-related assessments done by CDOT.
Yeah, she was asking specifically about Nederland studies, but CDOT did do a study that produced 4 very expensive solutions at the Lakeview Heights intersection.
Okay, great, thank you. One other question I had before we go to public comment. If we decided that we wanted to put any money towards this, is there a minimal amount that we can put towards it instead of saying $17,500 that would still get us some kind of information towards traffic or parking? As we all know, we're dealing with both constantly here in town. Instead of that amount, is there another amount that we could come up with?
So the minimum amount that we can request from Dr. Cog is 100,000. And so the matching there would be 20,000, split between the town and DDA would be 10,000 apiece. And I want to say about the CDOT study, I do reference that in the application. That is the number of cars that pass through town based on their counts.
Yeah, and there was another one that was more of an assessment of that intersection with the bank in Peakview also recently, like maybe 2 years ago.
Okay, I'll look for that.
Great, thank you. Do we have any other board comment? Hearing and seeing none.
I got one.
Go ahead, Andrew.
You know, having read through some of the Steamboat plan, where it's talking about data, GIS layers, analysis of boundaries, specifically roads, road types, public space. I mean, I could see the value in just a lot of GIS data and metrics and deliverables kind of related to that. as well as maybe updated current traffic flow and obviously the estimates of infrastructure projects. Now, I mean, if those are estimates of things that are 10 or 15 years out, I don't know how accurate they're going to be that far out in the future, but certainly, I'm not totally aware of exactly what data the town has as far as GIS data on roads and sidewalks and property lines, but I could see that being of use and helpful. But that's, whether that's worth 17,000 or 10,000, I don't know. I mean, I think obviously I had a chance to get that amount. I would just I'd be disappointed to see lots of community surveys about, I don't know, equity or biking. I'm more like would want deliverables of things that could be acted upon. But that's all I've got. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Andrew. Do we have any public comment? It looks like we had a comment from
Yeah, I
Kathleen.
think Kathleen Chabai.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Kathleen Chipai, 30-year resident of East Magnolia, 18-year business owner. I believe that we already know what we need. I think this is a waste of money. And I'm flashing back to how much we spent to consult on wayfinding signs that could have been figured out without spending a penny, quite honestly. So I'm looking at this as a big no. I can't support getting anything out of this. And yeah, that's where it's at. And I agree, especially with the one comment that Ron made, once again, reeling us in that there is a zone where the money is supposed to be spent on projects. And that, to me, I just don't understand why the town keeps trying to ask for DDA money for outside of the DDA, the Central Business District. So that's my public comment.
Great, thank you, Kathleen. And is there any other public comment? Hearing and seeing none. Mayor Pro Tem Ahwald, I say your name every time wrong. Do you have any public comment?
No, just one question. What is the traffic count? What did CDOT tell us?
Oh, I'll take a look and let you know. I wanted to comment on something Andrew said, and that is, if we do go forward with this, I'd like DDA to be involved in developing the RFP so that we get what your feedback on what you want to see out of the plan as far as GIS data, metrics, et cetera.
I believe the latest traffic count we have are the studies that CDOT did 4 years ago for Lakeview Heights intersection. So I'm wondering if you run across that, does the town still have that?
Sorry, will you say that one more time? Will you repeat yourself, Ron? What is it you're looking for?
A traffic count from the CDOT was 4 years ago, Ron?
I think it's close to 4 years ago.
Okay.
I
And
don't have access to the server from the community center, so I'd have to look.
I have the numbers now. According to the CDOT online transportation information system, over 6,600 vehicles pass through town each day. This is projected to increase to over 8,342 by the year 2042.
Can you repeat that? 8,000 what? Sorry, Karen.
8,342 by the year 2042. And so the 6,600 is current.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Hi, this is Tanya. I'm curious, since I'm not familiar with the budget of the DDA, is $17,000 something that would cause other projects to not get funded, or is it we have a surplus and it really doesn't matter?
Ron?
I think our problem is that we have unknown liabilities on things we've already funded, so we don't know exactly what we're going to be having to pay on those projects. So we have to quarantine funds to be sure we can pay for what we've already committed. And again, I think we need to have much more detail as to what the benefit to the geographical DDA would be. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
I do want to add one thing, Trustee Corvallin. We do not have money budgeted this year for this. So we would have to go to the Board of Trustees and ask for supplemental funding to provide match for this request. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right, but it's not like,
But so we would have, so it would
money
have to be part of
exists.
our budget discussion that we're starting
Gotcha.
this month.
I see. Okay.
Mark that money.
I get it. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Is there any other public comment or discussion on this item?
There's no more public comment. I do want to further discussion. This is Rhea Robel. I think that I know for a fact that a lot of times you need to have plans to get grants. I mean, the noxious weed management plan we developed several years ago enabled us to get grants from the Department of Ag in the past. And I think the public arts master plan was done in a similar way, hoping to get grants. So I see the value in that. I think $17,500 is too much money for the DDA to commit, considering all the unknowns. So I wanted to throw out there for discussion before anybody makes a motion, what if the DDA just committed $5,000? Would we have more favor of that? I'm not quite sure. You know, we can make motions and friendly motions, but I thought we could just kind of discuss. I do think that if we can get additional funding and this transportation plan would help that, then I think it is worth the money. Or do we think we should fund the full 17.5?
My thought is, it seems that, what Trustee Blakemore laid out is, a couple of different templates used by other municipalities, and hey, here's an opportunity, go for a Dr. Cog grant, where, there's all sorts of different ways that money could be spent. I realize that the districts of the DDA are, the boundaries of the DDA are smaller than what, as, something as comprehensive as a master traffic plan would capture, but the DDA is integral to all the roads that are connected to it. So I think that, I was leaning more towards, like, I'd heard that 10,000 was an option. But if using, putting up 10,000 and being involved in the RFP, where what is gone after is, getting cost estimates of a bridge or of, turning lanes, data that's needed to apply for, more grants on First Street, or, in the DDA boundaries. I think it's hard to see the DDA as an island not connected by any roads, or sidewalks or bridges. And, just driving around town, and, there's, I know the way I drive and avoid certain places in town. And whether it's, parking areas and I could see the benefit of how the DDA could benefit from being involved in this grant. So that's what I've got. And I'd support, either 5 or 10,000. That's where I'm at.
Great, thank you. Is there any additional board comment, or I would entertain a motion if someone wants to make one?
I move that we move forward for $10,000 matching funds for the AIM TMP Transportation Mobility Plan Study.
Great, thank you, Catherine. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Andrew. And Kate, would you call a roll?
Steve Carell,
Yes.
Rhea Ortner,
Yes.
Barb Hart,
Yes.
Andrew Duarte,
Yes.
Ron Mitchell, Danielle Kraus,
Yes.
Steve Roundtree,
Yes.
Catherine Ballin,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for your support, DDA. We'll be communicating about this in the
Great,
future.
thank you. Thank you, Trustee Blakemore. And let's move on to the next item, which is the mural dedication plaque. And it looks like Danielle will be presenting this.
Yes. Hi, thank you. I'm moving my screen all the way down to what we're looking at now. I'm sorry, I zoned out. The mural is the first one. I moved this down to the plaque one. Let me move that up again. There's a lot on here. I'm trying to find it. So in the studio today, I have two guests. I do have the artist, Sally Eckert, and I have public commentary by Peggy Taylor. And I'm still
Danielle?
looking for it. Can you hear me?
Yes, Danielle, we're starting with the plaque item. That's the first
Oh,
one.
thank goodness. Okay.
Sorry. You were in the right order.
All right. I'm trying to find everything on my computer. I can't, I don't want to lose it again. So the plaque for our mural over at Nederland Pet and Feed is up, and we would like to create a plaque for it. And the wording is presented to you guys. I want to make sure everything's good. I also want to ask if I can put the logo for the Downtown Development Authority. I also want to get Wild Bear's logo on there if we want that, or if we just want it to be words. I want your guys' opinion, approval or not, on if this looks good to put it into wording and then get a plaque made. And then once the plaque is made, be able to have a presentation later this summer.
Great, thank you, Danielle. Let's go around and see if anybody has any board comment on this. And let's start with Steve Carell.
Yes, my comment is I like it. I think the wording was nice, and I think it'll be great to have a plaque there. So when people stop to enjoy it, they'll understand it better.
Great, thank you. And Rhea Ortner.
Yeah, I think definitely have the NDDA logo on there and Wild Bears, and I'm fine with the wording. Thanks, Danielle.
Great, thank you. And Andrew.
Yeah, no, I support the wording. Nothing more. Thanks.
Thank you. And Steve Roundtree.
I think the wording looks good. I think it's really cool to see the mural up. So that's fun to see. And I think anything else on logos or anything, I support whatever the decision is.
Great, thank you. And Ron Mitchell.
I support the idea of a plaque and an explanation.
Great, thank you. And we've heard from Danielle. How about Catherine Vallon?
Like everyone else said, I really like the mural. I'm enjoying it. Thank you for all your hard work and everything. And I think, yeah, I'm in favor.
Great, thank you. And Tanya?
Yep, agreed. The mural looks fantastic and the plaque's a great idea. So the title of the painting is A Great Good Place? Is that the title, I guess?
I can't remember if it's a great good place or a good great place. And I
Right, so-
realized I needed to correct that and read over the emails just to verify it. Yes.
Okay, well, I think it's a good idea. And thank you.
Great, thank you. My only comment is just the way that the wording is, are we set in stone on the wording? In space provided by Wild Bear Nature Center is where it was created, but it's hanging on the feed store. So I'm not sure that that is very clear on what we want on the wording. It has been funded by the Nederland Downtown Development Authority, period. It was created in space provided by Wild Bear Nature Center, period. Makes more sense to me. So I don't know how set in stone we are on the wording, but I think it just needs a tiny bit of clarification. That's my comment.
Excellent, and that's exactly why I wanted to bring it to you guys, and I appreciate that comment.
Great, thank you. And do we have any public comment?
I'd like to make public comment. Kathleen Chipai. I love the mural that's hanging. I think it's wonderful. I agree with Barb's comment on how that wording should be, and I'm fine with the plaque and love the mural.
Thank you, Kathleen. Do we have any additional public comment? And Mayor Pro Tem Mehawal, do you have any comment?
Love the mural.
Great, thank you.
And I agree with your wording. I think that the change makes sense.
It's an editing thing. Thank you. So because this is an action item, we actually need a motion. Does anyone want to make a motion for this?
I motion that we approve the idea of the plaque and move forward with it with the edits suggested by Chair Barb Hart.
Second.
Second by Ron. And Kate, would you take the roll?
Steve Carreau,
Yes.
Rhea Ortner,
Yes.
Barb Hart,
Yes?
Andrew Duarte,
Yes.
Ron Mitchell,
Yes.
Danielle Kraus,
Yes.
Steve Roundtree,
Yes.
Catherine Vallon,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Great, thank you. And now we'll move forward with the proposed mural design, and it looks like Danielle will be presenting this as well.
Excellent. Thank you. I am still running around on my computer screen, and I will repeat, I do have two guests here with me tonight. I have Peggy Taylor for public comment and Sally Eckert, the artist, for the mural. Before you is a rendering that is the preliminary design for the mural on Nature Zone, which will be facing the west and north side. It will be on both sides. And I'm doing this from memory, so I'm not reading it from the AIM. Sorry about that. So it will be a joint contract. Ron Mitchell and Roy Young are willing to put in almost half of the funding for this mural, which is going to be around $11,000 total, including what the DDA is putting forth. Tonight, I wanted to ask the board if you approve of the design moving forward so that we may get contracts signed and develop it and get it started in time for summer weather. And I do have a comment from Roy in my email. I will be bringing that up and reading it to you guys while you are looking at the images. Again, I apologize. I'm not computer savvy. And I also have Sally here if you would like to ask her questions. I understand that there was an issue about advertising, and she did agree that she could move the dinosaurs' faces and necks off of the existing Nature Zone sign so that the sign is left as is and not be incorporated into the work. So I'll let you go around the board and have questions for Sally or I as I look for Roy's comment on the computer.
I do want to jump in briefly and let you know that I have reached out to town about if there's concerns with the design, and we haven't gotten feedback yet. but you'll see in your motion that you have the option to to approve this, including potential feedback.
Great, thank you, Kate. Let's go around the circle again.
Sorry, I found the email. Will it be all right if I read it? It's just a couple of paragraphs. It's for extra thought from Roy.
Sure.
Thank you. Having an artistic mural of the late Jurassic is an expression of the swamps and vegetation which existed in this part of Colorado in the late Jurassic, 160 million years ago. Conditions at that time produced a variety of dinosaurs and plants, including Apatosaurus, Luise, a Diplodocus, formerly called Brontosaurus, the iconic Stegosaurus stenops. Vegetarians, their food sources included cicads, ginkgos, and horsetails, otherwise now called scoring rush or eelgrass, which is found in abundance in riparian areas of the mountains in Boulder County. Fossils of both of these dinosaurs are found in outcrops of the Morrison Formation in the Front Range of Colorado, along the Colorado-Utah border, and in Wyoming. This historic mural of our natural history would certainly bring both publicity and visits to the town of Nederland and to all businesses in the CBD. An additional benefit would be to leverage DDA funding with an additional contribution of more than $5,000 from Ron Mitchell and Nathan Stone. And that is from Roy. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And this time, let's start with Andrew, please.
I really like the mural. I'm glad that advertising kind of conflict got talked about, although I think Roy and Ron, or at least Roy, chipping in a lot. I mean, kind of makes that doesn't bear as much weight. But I do have one kind of question just that may not be related, and this is for Sally as the artist. And I would hope that, graffiti never happens in our town on this mural. But does that MSA clear coat, I know there's some, preventative coats that can be used to prevent graffiti or make it easier to remove graffiti. Is that something that's happening with this?
It is happening with it, but I just want everyone to have an awareness that really if something's totally covered with graffiti, the mural can be, repaired in spots and pieces, but it's pretty well damaged. If it's a small amount of graffiti, meaning like a couple of like profanity words or this type of thing, that can be repaired. But to sand down a whole mural, if someone did graffiti off of it across the whole thing, would destroy the mural.
Okay. Thank you. Hopefully we never have to worry about that, but just wanted to know about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things that, and I wrote in my contract that I would donate hours, I think it was 4 to 5 hours of free labor to repair if someone did a damage. And basically the process is you sand off the clear coat, and then you have to repair, how far it's absorbed in, depending on what they use to, usually it's paint of some sort. So that can be sanded off. But that's what I'm trying to say. If it went across the whole thing, which is about 120 feet, that I could not probably, I could repair, but you would have to, pay me hourly or someone else hourly to repair the mural.
Right. And I would just add that I do have a lot of scaffolding, mason scaffolding. I think they're 3 by 8 foot sections, enough to probably cover that whole side, that I'd be happy to just get out of my house. But
that would always be great. Yeah.
Okay. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Andrew. And Steve Roundtree.
I don't have any scaffolding, but I like the way the mural looks, and I think it's a you know, with the one that's up already, I think it's a cool location for it to be going up. I think it'll have an impact, and it's exciting to hopefully see it later this year.
Great, thank you. And Ron?
I think I speak for Roy and myself. We're both willing to help fund this because we think it is such a fabulous addition to the town. And we would probably be willing to, if there was a real bad graffiti incident, we would probably be willing to help fund the repair too.
Thanks, Ron. And Steve Carreau?
Yes, I really love this artwork and I think it fits so well on the Rock Shop. And that's a hugely populated corner, you know, whenever there's busy traffic or a busy town. So I think it's a really great location and a great mural. I did have a question is the wording on there, is that already existing on the building?
Yes, the wording.
Yeah, all this.
We can't hear you, Danielle, if you were answering that question.
Yeah, I was sharing the computer so the others could see the screen. The existing sign is there, and we will not be editing or changing the words or the existing sign. That is the business's sign, and that does not affect the mural on our part. So those words, as far as I'm aware, are already up there. That's what it is, and we will not be touching it.
Okay, and
The-
I just wanted to say that I really do like the way the dinosaurs kind of encroach on it, and I think that, you know, makes it more unified. So if it's not an issue with town on the signage code, I would be for keeping it like that where it integrates into the existing sign. But I like it either way.
The image I'm viewing on the screen here is not the one or the latest one that I saw with the, yeah, this is the one that I was more concerned about. I thought there was a position where the animal had its head down and a feeding position near the ground.
Yes, I have that in my email. There was a conflict of anatomy with that drawing. I'm looking for it from Sally, and then I will share it on the computer with you guys.
I think that was closer to what Sally and Roy had come to as a final rendering.
All right, so I brought up a small visual of it, and then I just hit share on the screen, right?
I'm sharing right now, so give me 1 second and you should be able to.
Oh, sure.
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, all right. Thank you, Miranda. I'll click share. Is it coming up? I don't, oh, there it is. Is that good to see?
It takes
If I,
it's taking a couple minutes on our end.
okay. When it comes up, it's a little small. If I click on it, it's going to take longer to load, but I will if we need to bring it. And this is the edited version of the north side of the building.
While we're waiting for that to come up, would Catherine like to speak?
I think it's an attractive mural. I mean, at first it did kind of seem like, wow, you know, it's kind of tailor-made and good advertising for the business that it's on. And so I realize that Roy and Ron are also putting some of their own money in, so maybe there's a certain amount of fairness to that. I was really happy to hear Roy's comments about the historical nature of this, you know, these being accurate portrayals of animals that might have been seen here, you know, back in the day. And so I don't have any objection. I quite like the mural. I think I think it's attractive and interesting, and it's likely to, you know, it's likely to appeal to people that pass by, and that's something that all of our businesses want.
Great, thank you, Catherine. And Rhea?
This is Rhea. I love the mural design. Sally, thank you so much for the sketches. This comment may seem silly, but as a botanist, I can't help myself that I would like to see as much energy put into the close-up of any plants in terms of them being technically accurate as you do the animals. Yeah, I went to CU, you know, they have a great natural history museum, including like a paleobotany collection. So I am sure that we could find some professors to help us with that if needed. I also just want to say this request is, I kind of make it lightly because I don't want to cause a lot of problems and cause a lot of extra work. But if it's possible to make sure that our plant depictions are also accurate, I sure would appreciate it. Thanks. And again, good job.
Got to be accurate for the age. Some of those plants were 35 feet tall in that period.
Oh, sure. I mean, we have our horsetails that are only like, you know, a foot, maybe 2 feet tall around here, but then they were trees, you know, and I see some things that looks like cycads and things like that. And again, I'm no expert in paleobotany, but I'm sure we could find some expertise out there. And I'm willing to help too.
Sure. So what I have right now, Rhea, is I have some stuff that Roy had pulled up. And I guess, yes, we have the horsetail, which is, I guess, you know, these dinosaurs, actually, that's what they ate, was the horsetail. And, you know, a lot of these, I did these so fast just so you guys could have something. So they are not, you know, totally accurate. And the other one that I'm, you know, that like the dinosaurs eating is that a ciliad? Is that Ciad?
Oh, I mean,
Cycad?
it's a cycad. I'm guessing, again, I'm no
Yes.
expert. It looks kind of look like that. Yeah.
So that's what the dinosaurs are eating. So so I've put in ginkgos and the horsetail and the cyad, but I did it, you know, very fast, so that just so that you guys would have some sort of understanding of what we were trying to accomplish. But yeah, I'm gonna make sure, and any information you have, greatly appreciated, because God knows I don't have this information. I can't even pronounce the name of the dinosaur yet. I'm like, all right, let's try one more time to pronounce the dinosaur name. So, but I can paint it.
I will note, I don't have the video up here, but she has photo references of depictions of these vegetations that will help her get the same amount of detail in the plants as she is putting into the dinosaurs.
Great, thank you. And Tanya?
Hi. I'm curious to the artist. I mean, I thank you so much, and I love your work. Why did you choose dinosaurs to represent the town of Nederland?
I don't know if I'm coming up close again. So I think really what it was is that this is on the rock shop that's been there, I don't know, I think what, over 30 years? Is that what it is? Yes. And because it's such a, what I'm going to call an icon building, I think that, you know, the rock shop was really loving the dinosaurs and they wanted to see what it looked like. And, you know, I really thought that the whole scale of the dinosaurs would be very impactful as people came in. It's definitely going to make people look and wonder what it is. And I think that, you know, that's really, you know, where it came from, was to create this really dramatic, impactful thing that really works well with the rock shop and creates a dynamic mural for people to really be engaged in. And then I know eventually we'll be able to put informational plaques where people are going to understand, you know, what they're really looking at, so they can, you know, understand that this is what was really here way before them, and maybe they should appreciate it. That's what I always hope.
Okay, great. Yeah, I guess, I mean, if it wasn't the fact that Ron and Roy were matching the funding, I probably would be opposed to the dinosaurs, simply because we're not an area like Fruta that's known for dinosaur bones or really anything besides the fact that they roamed the earth. And we're here too. But I think you're right. It's going to be very impactful. People are going to see it. It's going to be the town with the big dinosaur on the wall, and it's cool. I mean, I like it. But but I still have to be honest, like that's to me wouldn't have been the first kind of imagery that I would associate with the town of Nederland at all. But I understand that since it is being funded a large portion by the Rock Shop, that we do want to cater to what they want. So, and I do think you did a great job. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And do we have any public comment on this item?
I'd like to just make one. I'm not the public, but it is kind of to scale for the time period that it was created. So it also not only gives people an idea of what they looked like and the food they had, but the size that they actually were.
Great, thanks, Ron.
I think if you
David?
just throw a hula hoop around one of the dinosaurs' legs, it'll be appropriate mural for Nederland.
Great, thank you. And does anyone else have any board comment or public comment on this item?
I have a public comment. Peggy Taylor.
Great.
So I came from a family of girls, lived in the country, and to be honest, I didn't think dinosaurs were real until I learned at 28 years old. I thought they were just something that they created for kids to have fun. And so when I discovered dinosaurs were real, it was quite amazing, a totally different transition in my life. But here in Netherlands, the Rock Shop has been such an educational thing. My son, being brought up with nature, he went to a private school in Boulder, and most of the kids, when they had birthdays, they got all these plastic type of toys, and we would buy geodes from the Rock Shop, and the kids would just go bonkers over these things of nature. And so when I was shown this mural, I was just blown away because of the what I would call more educational connection there, that you have the dinosaurs that are, you know, life size, which is amazing. The artwork is just incredible. But the kids, and knowing now that you're going to have plaques there even makes it more interesting, where then any age, again, I didn't know they were real until I was 28, to go into the Rock Shop and see the fossils and to connect those things and to have a learning experience, not just a mural. And in addition to that, you know, I travel a lot and I see lots of murals in lots of places. And I'm really tired personally of seeing murals of, you know, people's faces that I don't have any connection to or have no idea. So I think this mural brings so much more because it is unique. And with the carousel, and, you know, I think it will attract just, you know, maybe more families here and of all ages. So that's, I'm very excited about this mural and hope it gets up quickly. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Peggy. Let's see, I didn't do my comment real quick. My only concern, of course, is that this will be a violation of sign code in town, because I have dealt with sign code many, many times, and I want to make sure that we're not putting something on the wall that has to be scraped off later. So that is my only concern. We haven't received a response from town or from Cynthia, I'm assuming, on town code.
So did this get sent to Cynthia? It did, okay. And did you fill out the sign permit application?
No, I did not know I
Okay.
needed to do that.
I'll send that to you.
Okay.
Because she wants to be able to process without that anyways.
So that was
Okay.
my only, that was
Yeah.
my only request,
Okay.
because I've dealt with signs too many
Yep.
times and get told you can't do this or you can't do that if it's a certain sign. So I'd hate to spend over $10,000, part of which is our money, to put something on the wall that they have to take down later.
Yeah, I'll send Kate the sign permit. Cynthia's definitely the sign expert. So once we get this back from you, then we can do that assessment and we can follow up with the DDA.
Okay, thanks, Miranda.
And this is Danielle. From what I understand, when I worked on my mural for my business over at the Kathmandu Plaza, the sign permit is not needed if it is considered a mural, which this is legitimately a mural. So I don't know that we would have to fill out a permit for it. I just want to make a comment on that.
Great, thank you, Danielle. Again, my only concern would be doing it and then finding out that we had to have it. So I think that we should consider that. And with that information, I would entertain a possible motion.
I'll make a motion.
Wait a minute, I haven't had public comment.
Sorry, I asked for that. Sorry, I didn't hear you speak up. Kathleen?
Yeah, Kathleen Shipite. So I love the artwork and I love murals, but last meeting we heard that the artist had already contacted and was contracting with Roy at the Rock Shop for his own mural. And I thought that that was good at the time last month when we heard that. Now that I see the mural, I'm like Tanya. I mean, yes, the point is to get people's attention, to draw them into town, and yes, dinosaurs will do that. But it's not anything in the list in the DDA packet when the people that were polled in Nederland said, what would you like? I don't see how it fits anywhere in the list of, like, I think there's almost 20 things. I don't know. I just think the artist style would look great with something more like Native American or mining and early settlers or something on the list. I mean, we could draw a lot of attention by putting the music history that people wanted, and a bunch of. We could plaster all the faces of all the bands that recorded up at the Caribou Ranch. I just don't think dinosaurs is it, and I'm disappointed in that and that only. And it's such a big space. And also, as a business owner, I'm thinking when people see the dinosaurs like that big, they're going to stop. And I think they're going to expect more than being able to possibly buy a dinosaur stuffed animal at the Rock Shop, or maybe, I don't even know if the Rustic Moose has a dinosaur stuffed animal, but there's not going to be anything else about dinosaurs really focused on any of the businesses, current or previous of this. I mean, the matchup I find is that the Rock Shop's been there forever, and that's like a good correlation to dinosaurs, but I just don't think it's Ned. But at the same point, if it's going to make people stop, okay, they stop. But like I said, I think the dinosaur lovers are going to be unfulfilled. And if it is going to be dinosaurs, plaques are a must for something, some educational experience. I guess dinosaurs also would be quirky in the town of Nederland when there is nothing else referencing dinosaurs in our history. So I don't know. So maybe it's completely out of place and that's the right thing for Nederland. But to me, I just think it's too much dedicated to dinosaurs, and I've not seen it, and it's not included in the poll in the packet as something anybody ever wanted. So those are my concerns.
Great, thank you, Kathleen. Is there any additional comment?
This is Danielle. Thank you, Kathleen. And Ron and I did look over the list from the public poll. It is in the packet. I included that in the AIM, which I can't bring up. Thank you, Miranda, for not sharing my screen anymore. If you are able to bring up the packet on the agenda, I think it hit at least 3 things on the list. Businesses is on the list. Natural history is also on the list, and I'm not remembering the third one. So it doesn't meet all of them, and it's not on the list specifically dinosaurs, but it was in that area because that was a concern of mine also. And my own personal comment is, I recognize that there used to be a mural up on this building before that had dinosaurs, and there was a controversy about it, and it was removed. And to me, knowing that story in and of itself is a part of Nederland history. So if we were able to agree on this mural and move it forward and bring that back with an agreement, I think town would be rejoiceful in seeing it brought back with no controversy and beautifully done. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Danielle. Having all of that information, is there someone that would like to bring a possible motion forward?
I move that we approve the proposed design for moving forward with the nature zone mural with adjustments if they are required by code. Perhaps making sure that the mural doesn't encroach on the existing sign so that the sign code has to come into play.
This is Ray. I'll second the
I
motion.
second that.
Great, thank you. And Kate, would you take the roll?
Steve Carell,
Yes.
Rhea Ortner,
Yes.
Barb Hart,
Yes.
Andrew Duarte,
Yes.
Ron Mitchell, Danielle Kraus,
Yes.
Steve Roundtree,
Yes.
Catherine Vallon,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin.
No.
Thank you all.
Great, thank you. And I know we are all anxious to move on to the DDA appointments, but I would ask for a 5-minute break. Come back at 7:30 if that works for everybody. Thank you.
It's too much.
But it's now sorting out some design engineering stuff. It's coming along. Don't really depict the true solar panel roof assembly that was always the intention. So trying to like actually work through some of the factors involved to actually do that. Set us up for that. So now that we got that figured out, deck with a full like solar roof. Solar panels are the roof. The rendering would have been great if the architect. Yeah. I mean, there's still, some things are hard to get, but it's we're so much of it along. So I'll be. That was a challenging project, yeah. I'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. Now we're going to move on to the candidates for the NDDA vacancies. And Kate, would you introduce this?
Yes. So this evening, we have 3 candidates for our 2 board vacancies. The goal of the NDDA is to promote economic development and infrastructure improvements in the NDDA Downtown District. Applicants must either be a property owner or a business leasee operating within the Downtown Development Authority District. Board members serve 4-year terms. CRS 3125-806 clarifies that there is no balance of business leasee and property owners needed on the DDA board. Applicants cannot be the leasee of any property owner currently on the board and vice versa, as there can be a perceived conflict. After consultation with the NDDA attorney, this does not extend to HubNed unless one is a dominant position such as a supervisor or employee or employer and an employee. In June 2022, Rhea Ortner and Steve Crow's terms on the NDDA expire, and only Steve Crow is seeking reappointment. Town received 4 applications for the 2 vacancies. We had Steve Crow, Roz Bagtags, and Scott Papich. Tracy Tyre did submit her application but requested to be removed from consideration. You'll find in the attachments this evening the redacted applications from Roz Bagtaz, Steve Carreau, and Scott Papich, as well as questions that were submitted by Barb Hart to the candidates. And we received Roz's in time to be included in the packet, but we did not receive Scott's in time, but he did submit something that we are going to put up. And I can also email it to you if you all are logged in. I can send it to you and you can look at it now.
Yeah, I worry if I put, I mean, I'm happy to put it up
Yeah,
here,
it's
but it's
very
going to be
hard.
super
Yeah.
small. It's
So
going to be
let
hard
me
to
do
read.
this. I'm going to send it to the DDA, so it'll just come to everybody. All right. You should have received it. Just for everyone's edification, I'll read off the questions. The first question that was asked is, have you read the DDA master plan, and what was one thing in the master plan that interests you most? The second question was, the executive director has sent you a list of current projects. What project in the DDA interests you the most and why? How do you see the town in the next 10 years, 20 years? Many people move to Nederland because they are attracted to the town's historic character and mountain setting. Do you support current designs for the redevelopment of downtown as they are proposed? Why or why not? What would you do to preserve the cultural and historic character of Nederland? And finally, what growth opportunities do you see for businesses in Nederland? Oh, whoops, that wasn't the last one, sorry. What is your top priority should you be elected to the NDDA? Is the final question.
Great, thanks, Kate. And how would you suggest we go about answering? Should we go around and ask everyone? I know Roz is on and Steve is on and Steve is here. Would it be easier to just go around, or should we just kind of allow a general introduction of each candidate and their thoughts?
Sure, and I think since we'll have Scott's and Roz's comments on the questions
Yeah.
to allow Steve time to address them here with us,
Okay.
just so that, like, as we've done before, we always ask everybody the same questions, so
Yeah.
just to keep that consistency.
So would you go question by question, or?
It's up to you. Miranda, do you have any
That might be,
thoughts?
that might be the easiest way. Otherwise, you'll just be spending
Okay.
3 times as long going through it all. If you do one question and let all three
answer.
applicants respond, I think that makes the most sense.
Okay.
All right, then I'll read the first one. The first question, and we can, Barb, you can tell me where you want to start, but the first question is, have you read the DDA master plan, and what was the one thing in the master plan that interests you most?
I will just start with Steve Carreau, since he's here in the room, and then we'll just go around in a circle and we'll start with a different person each time.
For me, probably the thing that interests me the most was the circulation part of the master plan, and especially the way they talked about, wanting to have good circulation around town, but multimodal, and especially stressing pedestrian traffic. Because I think that that's something that the town can really work on and develop to enhance movement throughout the town, especially the way both sides of the stream kind of are a little bit separate from each other. So I'd like to see that developed more over time.
Great, thank you. And Roz, would you answer that question for us?
Hi there. How's everybody tonight? I apologize in advance. I had surgery yesterday, so I'm a little tired tonight. But I appreciate you taking the time to let me speak. So I would agree with Steve on his comments on that regarding the downtown loop. I would say that the updating and beautification of First Street area, along with the pedestrian pathways to create a downtown loop, to me is very important. As a business owner over in Caribou Village, I'd like to see more pedestrian traffic over in our area, and I think better pedestrian loop would facilitate that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Scott?
I have read the plan. Thanks for asking and thanks for having me here. I would say there's several parts of it that are very interesting to me. One is the additional bridge across Boulder Creek. I think that's a project that's been a long time under discussion. I think the Barker Meadow development concept is interesting. The Jefferson Street commercial area, particularly around parking, all of those are of interest to me, but the one that I think deserves the most attention and is really interesting to me is the First Street commercial area and everything that has to do with that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Kate, would you read the second question?
The executive director has sent you a list of current projects. What project in the DDA interests you the most and why?
And this time, let's start with Roz.
Yeah, I would say for me, the beautification projects are very interesting to me with my background in design and hospitality. I think I could be an asset to the committee with that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Scott.
I would say again, the First Street commercial area, I think all the concepts that are discussed and that will come to the table around, making that more commercially viable and long-term sustainable is most interesting to me. I believe there is a lot of potential for infill, but it needs to be done intelligently. There's a lot of opportunity in that area. And I would also hope that there is significant potential for locals to participate in business ownership and operation. And I see the DDA possibly playing a role in facilitating or at least assisting with that strategy.
Great, thank you. And Steve Carell.
Well, for me, it's definitely wayfinding. It's something that I'm really inspired by, and I feel really strongly that that can help our town. And, in some ways, just essentially, really, the way I see it is that it can help the downtown businesses tremendously by capturing tourists when they come through town and pointing them to all the available parking, and then perhaps, with an app or some other pedestrian level information that can get them to the stores where they could enjoy the town and spend money here. So I like all our projects, but that's one I'm most inspired by.
Great, thank you. And Kate, would you read the third question?
How do you see town in the next 10 years and 20 years?
And let's start with Scott.
My interest in this group is not just as a business owner here locally. It's just as much as a professional who has B2B experience consulting with companies and businesses in terms of market analysis, consumer research, business development, financial and profitability analysis. And those are the things I really want to bring to this vision. And what I see in this town is certainly a need to be more developed, but it has to be, I think, in a manner that provides a stronger economy and more opportunity for locals, first of all. And then for visitors, I think we need to provide a unique and highly attractive alternative to other I-70 mountain towns. We have that now, and I think we need to build on that strength. I also believe we simply cannot move forward intelligently without accounting for our most valuable asset of all, and that is our natural setting. So our mountain environment, our watershed, our unique topography, they should all be central elements to how we live and how we present ourselves. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Steve Carell.
Yes, and I feel similarly in the 10 to 20 year range. I don't see a lot of difference, and I know that things do take a long time here in town, but what I envision and what I think will happen is that the town will modernize a bit over the next 10 to 20 years, And, with new buildings coming on board, and also the infrastructure will improve. And I think it's really important too, like Scott said, about our natural setting here is a huge asset for us, and just such a great playground for the Front Range, easily accessible. And I think that we should and would need to improve the infrastructure in order to get people to, places like Hesse and outlying trailheads, West Magnolia, make that more sustainable in the long run. And I think the shuttle to Hesse is a good start, but I could see, a more robust infrastructure around getting people out to the trailheads without causing a big problem for town or the trailheads. And then within town, just more infrastructure. I do believe we'll have a second crossing across the Middle Boulder Creek I hope in 10 years, but it could take longer. And I think that would go a long way toward the circulation of the town as well, in addition to safety.
Great, thanks, Steve. And Roz.
Thank you. Tough to follow those guys. Good comments there. I would say in the next 10 years, I believe Ned will have retained its charm and quirkiness, which I think what I call its quirkiness is a very important part of Nederland. So we will have retained that while having grown with new residents and businesses. Its infrastructure will be improved with better parking, better pedestrian pathways, and added amenities. Hopefully before 20 years, expanded and improved roads with an additional driving bridge over the creek, and hopefully a town square is suggested. I love that idea in the master plan. When I read through that, I thought that was a really cool idea. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Kate, can you read question 4?
Many people move to Nederland because they are attracted to the town's historic character and mountain setting. Do you support current designs for the redevelopment of downtown as they are proposed? Why or why not? And what would you do to preserve the cultural and historic character of Nederland?
Great, thank you. And let's start with Steve.
I just wanted to clarify what the current designs are that we're talking about here for the redevelopment. Is that like the public works that they presented to us in the last year, or over by Jefferson Street and the
Steve,
town?
could you get a little closer to the mic?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was just trying to clarify what the current proposed designs were that we're discussing.
So I think the designs can include all kinds of things. One of them is public works. One of them is the town shop and what has been proposed there. Nothing has come forward, so it's all ideas that are general around town. Ron hasn't presented his idea, but we've seen it at the library and the town hall. So it's really just town overall. How can you see what we would be looking at as the DDA?
Okay. Yeah, I do feel strongly that the First Street really needs to be redesigned for safety. I absolutely love the fact that people walk down the middle of our street and dogs are there, and tourists come in and are wandering around like, thinking, what kind of town is this that I can walk down the main street? And I do think that it seems relatively safe at this stage, but that, really it's not a safe setup. So, and it's not ADA accessible. So I do think that needs to be changed, although it kind of breaks my heart. But so I would, I support various things, parts of Ron's project and parts of the town public works, when they came to us with the 2 different grants, because those at least address the ADA and the safety issues. And then I do like the public works project that was brought to us for over by Town Hall and Jefferson Street. And I think that was a good process as well, involving all the boards and town input. So I'd like to see that be developed as well. And and as far as the, keeping our historic character, I think everybody in town is always on top of that. So I think that whatever we do will be maintaining the general character of town and the historic nature of it. I don't see that as, something that could get lost in the work. Yeah, I guess that's my answer there.
Great, thank you. And Roz?
I'm going to focus on, I think, some of the sketches that I saw in the master plan for the redevelopment of First Street, which I do support, especially multi-use buildings for both residential and businesses. We need affordable housing for people who live and work in town. As many of us business owners are seeing, it's tough to get employees. I believe we can still preserve the cultural and historical character of Nederland while improving the buildings and infrastructure by having a cohesive design moving forward that reflects the character of Nederland. I would like to see, I think sidewalks down First Street are key. I was disappointed when I saw that we did not move ahead with the grant application for sidewalks down First Street and around the corner into Salto. Having walked down First Street and having previously been in a job where having handicapped accessible areas were very important, I feel like Ned, unfortunately, is not very handicapped accessible. So I would definitely like to see better sidewalks, especially down the First Street area. And I think I also read somewhere in the master plan about the idea of possibly making First Street just pedestrian, which I thought was an interesting concept. I'm not sure how the business owners would feel about that. So I think that's definitely a discussion that needs to be had. But I definitely, support what I'm seeing in place already for redevelopment. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Roz. And Scott?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I do support the designs that I see in the 2017 master plan, but that is a 5-year-old plan. And I know that there are some other concepts and designs that have come forward and been circulated and talked about since then. And I think that some of those concepts and designs need to be further studied before they can just be wrapped up and said, yes, this is part of our plan going forward. In short, I support the concepts and the designs, but I don't presume that the work is complete yet. Roz, you made a great point about First Street. I also read something about it potentially being looked at as a pedestrian-only zone. And I think that's something that deserves some serious attention and study. Regarding the cultural and historic character, I believe we need to make full use, again, of the true value of our natural setting and also the active participation of local business people, plus residential opportunities, meaning multi-use design for local employment.
Great, thank you. And Kate, can you read the 5th question?
What growth opportunities do you see for the businesses in Nederland?
And let's start with Roz.
Okay, sorry about that. I would say, I think better signage and improved pedestrian walkways connecting both sides of the creek, along with growth in population, will improve all our businesses. Continued beautification will attract people to Nederland and make them want to return. We have a wonderful, quirky little town here, and I want to see people see this as a destination, particularly expanding on the arts in our area, because as a gallery owner, I know how many talented artists live in our community, and I would really like to see Nederland, considered an art destination. I think that can only benefit all our businesses in general. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Scott?
Okay, I hope you'll forgive me. I'm going to go ahead and read some notes that I sent in today, and I'm going to repeat myself a little, but let me just say that as far as growth opportunities for business in this town, of course, tourism is already and economic strength for us. And there's always opportunity to serve visitors, but the real opportunity, I would say, is in providing an experience for visitors that is unique and unlike anything that they get in other mountain towns in Colorado. So we need to build upon our flavor as an interesting local destination. Someone else calls it quirky. I agree with that. We need to have our own restaurants, events, outdoor recreational opportunities. We're not like Vail, or we're not like Breckenridge, and I see that actually as a strength that we can build upon. I also see growth in providing opportunities for locals to participate in local business ownership and operation. I don't believe anybody here wants a future where large corporate developers own and run our local businesses. We want locals to have some stake in the local businesses themselves and in the business culture. And the third opportunity I see is in providing more employment for locals. So we have to house the locals. And that means, of course, another topic, which is a topic for focus for the whole community. But the more work we have for locals, the more business locals will do right here in Ned.
Great, thank you. And Steve Carreau.
Yeah, I think Netherlands is a super tough town for businesses. You know, we've seen that forever. And tourism, as Scott mentioned, is, you know, that's our strongest, and in particular, food and beverage. But, you know, I'd like to see a more diversified economy up here. But it's very tough. We have such a small community, and we have a very big community down in Boulder that most of our community commutes to. So it is a really tough thing to have viable businesses up here that people will support. One of the things I really like, and it's not on the horizon right now, is the creek walk. You know, that's been addressed, and that was in our master plan. And I just see that as a really wonderful opportunity to bring more tourists into town, essentially, but also for locals. I mean, I would love wandering down there and you know, enjoying the creek and the businesses along it. And along those lines as well, there's, you know, been I forgot what it's called, but like an entertainment district or something proposed in the past. And I think that's a great idea too. And perhaps it's not a 24/7 thing, but maybe Friday afternoon or evening through Sunday, where First Street is closed off and people, you know, it's like a walking mall for that time period. And I think that could bring a lot more business to those businesses on First Street at least. And then another thing is, I don't know how to achieve this, but if there was a way to support things like wholesale business or production businesses up here. You know, it's a tough climate and it's hard because we don't have many spaces for those types of businesses. But that's, you know, like one of my businesses is a wholesale distribution company, and we provide a lot of employees, you know, full-time work around the area. And it's wonderful because we're not relying on the town of Nederland for our business. So it is a viable thing in that sense because we're shipping out all over the country and Canada, but we happen to be located here and we're hiring locals all the time. So those are some of my ideas.
Great, thank you, Steve. And Kate, can you read the last question?
What is your top priority should you be elected to the NDDA?
And let's start with Scott.
Well, I have a couple of priorities. First, I want to engage with this group on topics that are most impactful and time sensitive, like parking, possible second bridge, First Street development. Whatever's time sensitive and urgent and important, I want to be there to work on it. My other priority would be to use my own experience as a consultant for other businesses and my analytical experience. Again, that's market analysis, consumer research, business development, etc. To use that experience to help the group make the most intelligent decisions possible with the best long-term outcomes for the community. I want to see Nederland develop commercially, but I want us to know as a community that once development happens, it's never undone. So the decisions we make in the coming years need to account for long-term implications. The strategies, the plans we implement now need to be that which locals will actively take part in and visitors will be attracted to for a very long time. I want that overlay to be part of the decision-making process. Thanks for asking.
Great, thank you. And let's see. Roz.
Hi. Okay, well, Steve spoke very well there. Oh, Scott, sorry. Thank you, Scott. I would agree with all that. I would say my top priorities, just considering my background, would be continuing and expanding on the beautification plans for Nederland. And also, I'm interested in helping plan events that will bring more people into town to enjoy our businesses and our quirky little town. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Steve.
Yes, my single top priority would definitely be wayfinding. And, I just am really involved in that and very passionate about it. And I also just wanted to apologize, with personal stuff. Not sure what that was from. But yeah, just with my personal things happening over the last couple months, I've, really been out of touch with the DDA. And, I just wanted to say that that's wrapping up now, and I'm back in Nederland now full time again. And so I'm really looking forward to re-engaging with the wayfinding. And probably the second priority would be the parking. And even though I'm not on that committee, I think it's a very important one for town. And I also see it as, it jibes well with the wayfinding, because a big part of the wayfinding will be identifying parking and getting people parked and out of their cars. So those are my two top priorities, I think.
Great, thanks, Steve. Do we want to go around the circle once and see if there are any other questions for any of the candidates? Do you want to start, Rhea?
I have no other questions. Thank you, everybody.
Great, thank you. And Andrew?
I have no other questions. Thank you, everyone, for your comments and your time.
Thank you. Steve Roundtree?
Yeah, I have no other questions. Thank you for all the thoughtful responses.
Great, thank you. And Ron?
No other questions.
Thank you. And Danielle?
No other questions. Thank you guys for applying and sharing your answers tonight.
Great, thank you. And Catherine?
No questions. I just want to, again, like everybody else, thank you. I feel like we're almost in a position where we couldn't make bad choices because we have three such excellent candidates.
Great, thank you. And Tanya?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, what Catherine said. It's a tough, but great, problem to have. And I appreciate everybody stepping up and wanting to volunteer your time. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And Steve Carell?
Yeah, I wanted to mention that when Rhea and I came on the board, Ron Mitchell had then been a public, comment, and he had made the point that we had two really good candidates, and could we expand the board? And I believe our bylaws do allow for that. I'm lost on the number that we have right now, but it struck me that all three of us are really seeming like really good, strong candidates. And I wonder what the board thinks about, the option of bringing on all three of us.
So and I'd have to look at your bylaws, but I imagine the highest you could go is 11, which means you would need still one more. You would have a vacancy.
We have 8.
You have 9.
We have 9.
We have 9.
Well,
And you only have one extra applicant for your 2 vacancies. You have 3 applicants for your 2 vacancies.
so we'd still
So you would have, which is fine, you would just be short one and would have that vacancy. Of course, you'd have to do that before you
you
could
have to
appoint
go
no
up in
one.
an odd number. You
Right.
can't go up in an even number.
Right.
But
If
But-
Although I looked at Kate to even see if 11's, I think
It is 11.
Yeah.
It is 11 and we're at 9.
But are you sure that we can't have an even number? I thought when Steve and I originally joined, it was an even number.
It's going to need to be an odd number from a quorum standpoint. From a quorum or a vote, because if you have an even, then you could have a tie vote situation. That's why you always have odd.
But Barb wouldn't be, as the chair, would she be the tiebreaker in a situation like that?
You can have like your bylaws.
Can we, I mean, wow, we have amazing candidates, so it's a really difficult decision. Could we have an alternate like the BZA does or one of the other boards? So if one of us can't be here,
You have to check your bylaws because like ProSab and SAB, they create their own bylaws. So that's why they created that vacancy or that alternate. So if it's allowed, I don't see why not.
We'd have to change the bylaws.
Would you amend your, yeah. I mean, that's what
It's
ProSab and
not
SAB
in the
had to do.
bylaws,
They
right?
had to amend their bylaws to allow for the alternate. So that makes sense.
I'm not sure I'm understanding the math because if Steve is currently on, but he's applying back for his own seat, we'd be going up by 2. And if we have an odd number now, we would still have an odd number by adding 2 because he would still stay on.
So, but Rhea is a vacancy. So,
Oh, gotcha.
yeah.
stay.
Yeah, I think we would end up with 10, and including Tanya, right, as a voting
Right.
member.
Correct.
It may be the case, this is Rhea speaking, that it might be too complicated to try to change the bylaws and all this at this meeting. I might suggest that the DDA board have their 2 highest priority candidates, and that maybe an item for future discussion and possible action is to amend the bylaws to allow additional people. I've always been in favor of having, the more people that can help, the better. There's so much to do. However, we do recognize that the higher number of people, the higher the quorum has to be, and the longer the discussions often are too. That's necessarily a bad thing, but.
Great, thanks, Maria. How many people are on the Gilpin Planning Commission that you're on? Because there are 2 alternates? Or
We have 2 alternates, yeah. And so if someone's absent, they become a voting.
Okay.
The board liaison isn't really technically a voting member. You can't vote on the board of directors and vote on the Downtown Development Authority board also. Sorry, Steve, I didn't get your question.
I didn't hear what you just said.
I said it's a conflict of interest for the liaison from the board of directors or the board of trustees to vote on the board of trustees and the Downtown Development Authority. Should be one or the other, and it has to be the board of trustees.
What?
I guess I don't
Election
know if
voting?
that's in your bylaws because in all other boards and commissions, those are voting members.
Yeah, why would I even bother showing up if I can't even vote?
Yeah, that's not in here.
I think a case of interlocutor directorates. We're an independent entity. We're not one of the other boards.
Right, but your 9th member is a board of trustee liaison.
Could that person become a tiebreaker vote then?
Chair should be the tiebreaker vote.
There's not a lot of clarity in the bylaws about any of this that I'm finding right now. No, but that's just best practice. That's more what Miranda was referring to. But I'm also doing a quick.
I mean, I guess either way, you're not going to make that change tonight.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that I would recommend you give Kate time to search this because you're not going to make that change tonight. It's not on your agenda to be able to make that recommendation. You need bring that back. So tonight you're making a recommendation for 2. You could let the board of trustees know that your desire is to increase to 11, but you wouldn't be able to make that decision tonight.
Okay, thank you. Well, in the past, because we've been remote for the last 2 years, we have done our voting by email. But quite a few of us are here tonight. I guess I'd like to see how everyone feels about doing a public vote.
Is there public comment?
Yes. Is that Kathleen?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Have you, are you going to a vote or are you doing public comment?
We're just trying to figure out if we should go to a vote, but please go ahead and comment.
Okay, so I just say I want to thank everybody who applied. And I want to support Roz for the board since she has a brick and mortar business. And I think that's because you have a brick and mortar business, you have daily interactions and feedback from locals and tourists. And I know at my shop it's essential, and I find out a lot and what needs to be worked on. And anyways, and I have shopped at the Kaleidoscope 3 times now without identifying myself, and I have appreciated my conversations with Roz about artists and art businesses and her entering the business in Nederland. And I just think she is looking at this in a lot of ways and has a lot of forethought in how to benefit the community, the business community, and the DDA. And I appreciated that she filled out the questionnaire because I thought her answers fit well with the DDA and the town's goals, and I think she would be an asset and a good fit to the DDA. I also support Steve Carreau being reappointed since his energy and effort prior to this has been excellent. I agree with him on the entertainment district, the river walk, and he has a better understanding of the hardships with a business in Nederland. It's not easy to have a business in Nederland. I mean, businesses come and go every 2 to 3 years, and there are many years all I'm doing is breaking even at my business, but I enjoy what I do since I make my own stuff and sell it. So, but I just feel like it's been hard for businesses to stay established in Nederland, and that I think that his understanding of that is a good fit. And since he's still on the board, he'd be continuing onward with projects he's already started and knows of. So I would pick both Roz and Steve tonight. And I don't like when we talk about changing the rules in the middle or the policies in the middle of something like this. I think it's a waste of time. It isn't on the agenda, and it isn't a possibility for tonight. I appreciate that there's more candidates than there are spaces open, but if turnover seems to happen regularly with the DDA, and if the space opens again and Scott decides to run, I'm also a little concerned about some of Scott's responses about, I mean, the downtown property is basically all privately owned, and the DDA isn't, I feel like he thinks the DDA is going to make decisions about how to redevelop that area. And to me, since it's private property, and that's one of my main focuses, and things that I try to protect as property rights. So I just think right now, since he doesn't have a brick and mortar business, that the other two are a better fit. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen. Is there any additional public comment? Is anyone else on, Miranda? No.
You still have Judy, but I don't know if Judy wanted to give a comment.
Okay.
This is Scott. I'd just like to ask, I'd like to thank this group for inviting us to present and speak, and whatever you decide to do. I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Great, thank you. All right, if there's no additional public comment, let's go back to the quick discussion of voting. Do we want to vote individually, pick 2 names? Do we want to email the vote, which is how we've done it, but we're here, so I don't know if we want to kind of do it more publicly this time. Miranda, can Steve Curro vote?
I would
That's a question.
recommend that he not, but sure.
Okay.
I mean, his choice,
His choice.
just a recommendation.
Okay. Is there a preference of public or email?
I
Rhea?
would say, I know historically the DDA has done the silent vote. Obviously, the preference has always been that you do a public vote. That's the most transparent way to do this. And that would be my recommendation, is to do it that way.
I feel just the opposite, that a secret vote is necessary so that no one's embarrassed about the outcome.
So I just want to remind the board that even if you do a secret vote, that is core requestable, and the information is still available to the public, how you all voted.
It's all right.
Rhea, do you have a preference?
Email.
Email? Andrew?
I'm fine emailing. I don't have a preference either way, but email. I've got my computer open, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Steve Roundtree?
No preference on how we do it.
Ron?
Email.
Danielle?
I like email because that's what we did before.
Okay,
Thank you.
of course. Catherine?
Email, but I have a question since this is my first vote. Who do we send the email to?
I was just going to say, you'll need to make sure that you send it to both Miranda and I. We both need to be on all the communication. And if you text, the same thing, it needs to be Miranda and I.
Is it easier to keep track of if it's in an email? I mean,
Yes, it's easier if you all email, but I understand we're all here, so text
Right.
might be easier, and that's
Okay.
fine. Luckily, Miranda and I are right next to each other, too.
okay. And Tanya, do you have a preference?
I don't have a preference. Now, the truth is, this goes to the BOT and they can vote for whoever they want. Like this goes all back.
Yeah.
Correct.
So,
It'll go before
remember
the
last time, you guys picked somebody and then the BOT went and picked somebody totally different. So it's really just a formality, I guess. And I will do whatever you guys want to do.
Okay, thank you. I think there were two that were no preference and everybody else was email. So
And, sorry about that.
Steve?
No, I didn't mean to cut you off, sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
I was just saying that I wasn't, because it does seem a little unfair since there's three of us, probably vote for myself. So I would give myself one extra.
Okay. Since it seems to be the preference, I suppose we do it the way that we've done it before, and everyone emails Kate and Miranda. There are 3 candidates, and you need to pick 2 names and forward them to Kate and Miranda both, and then they will give us the results in a few minutes after everybody has done so.
I'm having a hard time finding
Text or
Kate's
email.
Text or email.
Kate, what's
Okay.
your email?
So we'll just take a couple minutes here.
So is
Kate, what does your
Kate's
email start with?
address the NDDA director? I'm trying to figure out which email address goes to.
Yeah, it's not coming up when I start writing in Kate. So I'll see. Anybody want to answer my question? Does anybody want to give me Kate's email, please? Oh, I think I might have lost signal.
Same question. I've got dda@nederlandco.org, and I've also got ndda.ed@nederlandco.org. Not sure which one. Oh, here we go. Kate Massengale, ndda.ed@gmail. So I've got 3 things that could be it.
Yeah, could someone please clarify this?
I have ndda.ed@nederlandco.org, and that works regularly. That she's under Kate Massengale, NDDA Director.
While everybody's finishing up their vote, I just wanted to say a very quick thank you, no matter how the vote goes, to Rhea and Steve for their many, many years on the board and all they have done to further what we do as the DDA, Wayfinding Public Art Beautification. Thank you so much, and I look forward to however we move forward as a board.
I second that.
I think Kate, I just need Catherine. I don't know, Catherine. Sorry, Catherine, pressure's on. I think we just need yours.
I sent it already to the two addresses, the one from Miranda.
Just came through. Cool.
Okay. It's a long way from Gilpin County, you know. Went around the earth the long way.
Okay. We're done. Yep, I agree. You'll let me share? All right. The two people that were selected to be sent to the Board of Trustees are Steve Carew and Roz Bagtaz. And it was a close vote, so we really appreciate everyone and their time. And we're, like everyone said, we're just thrilled to have had so many great candidates.
Yeah, and just a follow-up. So we would still expect Scott, Roz, and Steve for you to come to the Board of Trustees meeting because the board still will want to hear from all three candidates. But in the aim, we'll note that your recommendation is for Roz and Steve to be appointed.
Can I ask what the numbers were? I'm curious.
Sure. Steve Crow had 7 votes, Roz Bagtaz had 5, and Scott Papich had 4.
And this is Tanya again. I just want to reiterate that it could very well happen, as happened the last time, where the BOT chooses the person that the DDA does not choose. So there is still a chance for Scott, if, who knows? Anyway, thanks.
Thanks, Tanya. Great. Let's move forward into the next informational items, which is the chair report. Mine is in the packet, and I don't really have anything else to say beyond thank you to Kate, who's been with us for a year. It's been a year of learning and figuring things out, and she's put a lot of work into the processes, and I'm really grateful that she's with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ron, do you have a treasurer report or want anything beyond what's in the packet?
Nothing I want to add other than what's in the packet.
Great, thank you. And Kate?
I have what's in the packet, but I did just want to say thank you for a great first year, and it felt good to get the mural hung, because that was one of really the first things that was like, hey, this is going on, let's go, and I was glad there was a consultant to help lift that, and now to kind of own that process has been great. So that was just a nice stickler for the year. So that's all I have to say. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kate. And Miranda?
I don't have anything else than what's in the packet, but just a reminder that nomination petitions for the Board of Trustees for their special election are due Monday. And as of today, we don't have any. So we do strongly encourage people who are interested to run for the Board of Trustees to get those in. We do have to have them by 5 o'clock on Monday.
Great, thank you. And do we have any committee reports? Beyond that, anything from beautification? Do we know when flowers are
The person we hired is coming to town next week, and I haven't heard the latest if she's scheduled the delivery with Andrea Duran Hobby Acres. She's the person growing out the flowers. She's the same vendor that provides the city of Blackhawk flowers. So I'm kind of waiting for those two to hash out when the planting will occur. So as soon as possible, it's hopefully next week, maybe the week after, but got to play it by ear with the weather as well.
Yeah. Great, thank you. And anything from Big Springs Committee?
No, just with as much moisture, I haven't seen really any action, but it's been pretty wet up until last week, so no action on Big Springs.
I know that our consultant with JVA reached out to everyone to get updates, and he got some. The project manager that we were working with at Tebow is no longer with Tebow. So that was a bit of a surprise, but we're grateful to have established some good connections already with the contractors and the other players. So I don't anticipate that being too big of a hurdle, but Nathan is on that. So just to bring that up.
And who was that?
I can't remember his last name, but his name was George.
George.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Catherine, updates on the committee?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Communications, we don't have much going on, but working on the website and hopefully have an update next month. Tanya, do you have anything on the performance space?
No, we have not met. We need to meet. That's definitely, I'll send out an email tonight to see when people are available again. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And anything additional on public art?
Yes, thank you guys for all the information tonight. The other mural that we've been working on, the Poe wall, I have the signature on the contract from the Poes, and the artist who has COVID is recuperating and not set back our meeting, but I will be meeting her next week to get more on that. And we're also waiting on Katrina Harms to get a report on the covered bridge project. And that's all I can think of right now. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And wayfinding Steve or Steve?
Yeah, just that we're gonna get on it finally. I'm back and yeah, I think we'll be meeting soon.
Great, thank you. And then we have a discussion item, and I believe this is going to be Miranda.
It is, yeah. So next month on Tuesday, July 12th, from 5 to 7, we'd like to have a collaborative meeting amongst all the boards and commissions. So that would be the Board of Trustees, Planning Commission, ProSab, SAB, BZA, DDA. The purpose of this is there's a lot of things that you all are working on that really intersect with other boards and commissions. A good example of that would be wayfinding and the Trails Master Plan that the ProSab is working on, some of the parking work the Planning Commission is working on, and we're just seeing a lot of things happening simultaneously and feel that there's a really a need to work collaboratively on some of these projects and make sure we're not reinventing the wheel 3 times over. So the thought was to have this collaborative meeting where we all get together. What we'll do is kind of have breakout groups where a DDA member would be teamed up with a member from SAB or ProSab in the Planning Commission, and you could talk about your current projects and begin to brainstorm ways that you could really work more closely together and to collaborate your different resources, both in kind and financial. So first, that's just your save the date. I will send out a calendar invite here shortly, but wanted to just in knowing that that's our intention, see if you all have any desires or recommendations for what you'd like to see come out of that type of meeting. What would you like to see us accomplish in a collaborative meeting amongst all advisory boards and commissions?
Great, thanks, Miranda. Would it be easiest for us? Do you want to go around the circle or do you want
Yeah,
us
I'd
to
love if
email
you would just
or-
do it around the circle, but you're always welcome to email me as we get closer. But
Sure.
if something initially comes to mind of you want to make sure we use this time for X, I'd love to hear that.
Collaboration among the boards.
Mhm.
It's a meeting I've been asking for a year and a half. So thank you. Steve, do you have any?
No, I just think it's a great idea, and I think 2 hours is good because it's very doable. And give a chance, for the groups to get together and share some ideas and make plans to meet further as needed.
Great, thank you. Rhea?
Well, I won't be attending, but will the new person or the two people be coming, the new members? I'm not sure exactly how the timing works out with the BOT decision.
So it should be.
I mean, obviously, Steve,
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, the BOT will make their decision on June 21st
So we'll-
for your new members. So we would love as many members as possible from each board and
okay,
commission.
so I hope all the candidates who are still on or listening can maybe put a tentative thing in their calendar to attend.
It's going to be at Chipeta Park, so it'll be outdoors.
Outdoors, yeah, we'll have plenty of space.
Great. Andrew, do you have any questions or comments about that one? July 12th.
Yeah, and I'll send you a calendar invite right now. I just wanted to talk to you about it before you saw something pop into your calendar and you're like, what is this? So
It's a Wednesday.
That would be our board meeting, I think.
your board meeting, I believe, yeah, is the next day. Yeah.
No, it's a Tuesday.
Yeah, so it normally would be a work session day for the Board of Trustees. So we're going to use that opportunity to have this collaborative meeting. And we did want to do it outside, hence why it starts at 5 o'clock, so that we're not trying to beat the darkness.
Great. Thanks. Steve Roundtree?
Seems like a great idea, and I'll be there.
Excuse me. Thank you. And Ron?
I think it's a good idea. I'm for it. I'll be there.
Great, thank you. And Danielle?
I think it's a great idea also. I don't have my calendar with me, but I think I should be there.
Great, thank you. And Catherine?
I love this idea and I'll be there.
Thank you. And Tanya?
I like the idea too. Is it going to be just free form where we just wander around and talk, or is it going to be somewhat, organized?
Yeah, it's going to be organized. I'm joking. It's kind of like speed dating in the sense of we'll cluster together a member from each board and commission to sit at a table. And then in your table, you'll have a series of questions to help guide you through the discussion. We think that'll be a better use of that time than trying to have like this presentation mode and trying to talk as a big group. So it will be structured, yes.
Sounds great. Thanks.
And just real quick, so we're talking this coming Tuesday, the 14th of June?
No, July 12th.
Your invite was
Oh,
June.
geez, sorry. Let me fix that. It just went to you all, so let me fix that.
Great, thank you. So that's just a not a 4, which you got more than 4 since it was an informational item. Is there any public comment?
Yes, if I could speak.
Yes.
So Judy Anderson, I'm on the Public Art Committee, but I also sit in virtually on a lot of these different groups, and I hear the same stuff coming in, but different groups are choosing different ways to approach them. So it sounds like the idea of parking, the issue of parking, if we could get people to park at the park and ride and then get them to walk to town from there rather than parking in town. I think if we could use something like the public art stuff, like, like a trail, like an art trail from the park and ride, maybe something using an app that people can, sign in on and get the information about the artists and, what's going on and, here's what to look for kind of thing. It could get people to park at the park and ride and then bring them through town to the different venues. We could, put in, here's this store, this art piece is on this building and, oh, look at this. And, we could do something, where we're like painting a something on the ground where people could just follow that or whatever, and then take it to First Street, take it across the bridge, take it to the shopping center. It could bring the whole town together, I think. Anyway, just my crazy thoughts.
Thanks, Judy. I think that's really important information, and I think it should definitely be shared with the town. I don't know if there will be a public forum there, but maybe sending your comments to the Board of Trustees, and then they can share it with all of the boards when we meet.
So we'll be open to the public. I think we'll have to assess where kind of the public participation component fits in, but it is an open meeting.
Well, I can definitely send it to the BOT if that's best, whatever. I just wanted to get it out there because there's a lot of communication going on that's people aren't necessarily talking to each other in the different groups. So I totally applaud this idea of all the groups getting together.
Well, and Judy, you're going to see the parking recommendations from the Planning Commission come before the Board of Trustees next week at a special BOT meeting on June 14th. So I would recommend definitely emailing the board your thoughts.
Okay, cool. I'll do that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there any additional public comment? Great. Hearing and seeing none, let's move on to the next discussion item, which is the covered bridge repair, and this is Danielle.
Yes, Nikki Dunn had brought up that the covered bridge is getting dilapidated in different parts of it. She wasn't sure if this is an NDDA venue for getting help. What she had mentioned was through the town, if things are repaired rather than restructured, there would be more funding available. If we waited until the bridge was in further disarray, then we might not get the funding that she was thinking of. So I wanted to bring it before the board to see if this is something that we should look into to find out if we have any say or can help with. Or if it's even a project we want to consider. And if so, if it is within our realm, do we want to put it on the agenda conversation for budget? Thank you.
Great, thanks, Danielle. And let's see, let's go around the circle. Andrew, do you have any thoughts or comments on that idea?
No, I don't have any comment. I'm sorry.
Great, thank you. And Steve Roundtree?
I guess I don't even know whose bridge is it?
It's the town's.
It's the town's bridge.
Ron?
Which bridge are we talking about?
We're talking about the one that leads us to the by Crosscut. I think
Sorry,
that's
I'm not-
the one that goes to by Crosscut that heads towards the hotel. I believe that's town's.
The
But it's CDOT's bridge, isn't it?
The covered bridge? I don't
Oh, the
think-
covered bridge.
Yeah, the covered bridge. Yeah, not the
that
drivable part of the bridge.
That was a donation by a private citizen to the town.
Yeah.
No? Okay. Steve Carell?
Yeah, I guess I feel like it should be the Public Works Department that would repair it. I'm not sure what state of disrepair it's in right now, but it seems like that would be more from the town. You know, it's their bridge and it was donated to the town.
I think that Nikki's ask though is financially, if the DDA would consider supporting, and Nikki could come back with what her actual request is. I think she was just trying to get, Danielle, correct me if I'm wrong, I think she was just trying to gauge interest to start.
What?
Yes.
Is there a structural problem with the bridge?
Not a structural problem. I think it's more of an aesthetic.
Okay.
I think in particular, she was noticing that the roof of it is getting caught in the wind. That was one part she brought up. And the dirt leading up to either end of it, at one point you could see the water through the walkway that is leading up to the bridge because the dirt is falling down through it. I had asked her to help me write up an aim for this to get more of her perspective, but she's been busy and we have not connected. And I wanted to bring this to you guys sooner rather than later to get your opinion.
Great, thank you.
Wasn't there some prior conversation about the artwork that's in the, so this is separate from that though? This is just
Yeah.
the structural component of the
I mean, I
bridge.
think our public art budget, we included funding for, to repaint or touch up the murals. So that's already money what we're spending on the bridge. I don't remember the exact number. But
Couple thousand.
yeah, but I would
2,000.
say, I mean, I would say the DDA should consider it. I think that maybe some more information is warranted. Because if it's not a lot of money, I mean, our tourists do use the covered bridge. And so if we can make it aesthetically more pleasing and it doesn't cost a lot, I mean, I just think the DDA should think about it, get more info.
Great, thank you. Steve, do you have any other comments?
Yeah, I could see it being under like beautification budget or something like that.
So do you want to go see if there's support to come back? Do you want to vote on whether or not there's support for Nikki to come and do more of a presentation to
Let's
you all?
see, let's ask Catherine real quick and
Okay.
and Tanya.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I would really like to know what is needed. Is it new shingles on the roof? Is it?
I have not
support
talked
beams?
with Nikki, so I'm going to pull up Daniel's aim, but
Bring us some details and an estimate.
And Catherine, did you have a comment?
yeah, I mean, obviously, again, connecting the town in a way where it's walkable for people to shop both sides of town, get to both sides of town. It's very attractive. It's a fairly unique structure that, people remember Nederland and everything like that. We're already putting money into preserving the artwork there. So of course I'd like more details to know like exactly what would we be being asked to do, how much would it cost and what would be the result and everything. But, we're trying to beautify and make First Street safe. How are we going to beautify and make First Street safe and then, let people go break their leg on the bridge or something? So I do think it should be something we're interested in finding out more about it and potentially supporting.
Thank you. And Tanya?
Yeah, I think it's an asset and, you don't let your assets depreciate like that. So I definitely, Nikki should come answer what needs to be repaired, how much it's gonna cost, how much money she needs, and then we should see if we can afford it. But I mean, if we're gonna be giving out thousands of dollars to get studies done and not give out money to actually repair tangible items that we already have, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm all for repairing it if, after we get more information.
Great, thank you. So it sounds like the direction, Kate, is there any public comment? It seems like the direction would be that we want more information to come back to us.
Okay.
Since this was a discussion item, we can bring it back.
so actually
Huh?
I just texted her because I was like, give me more information. She's like, the roof is falling apart and the wood needs sealed. It just needs maintenance. So I think if you're open to it, I'll let her know that you'd like her to come to your next meeting with an actual aim to go over that more.
I would like to see that.
We also ask Miranda if she brings us that information, because I have also noticed before that there is like the hole in the dirt going up to the bridge and that you can see under it to the water and how Public Works would be working to fix those issues, which are obviously Public Works things like filling in the dirt, or if there's something more underneath there that needs to be looked at.
Yep.
I would just add, I'm thinking of it, I think that's a cedar shingle roof, is it? Yeah.
Yes.
This is like, if that can be, now that I've kind of been hearing this and thinking about it, I don't know if that would, if just repairing it, that's being able to, talking about a permit now and what's acceptable, because I think currently, if it were to be replaced, it would need to be a Class A. I don't think wood shingles would fly up there anymore. So just if repairs would be possible, because the wood shingle is kind of a, look that it's got. So just thinking about if it was a total new roof, what would be, yeah, I guess this would come up in the aim, but just it'd be a totally different type of roofing that would need to meet current code, is my understanding. But that could be talked about in the future.
Great. Yeah.
Oh, lots of questions for Nikki.
Got it.
So it sounds like we have direction on that. So we don't need to do anything more with that one. It was just a discussion item. So let's move on to the NDDA budget priorities with Kate.
All right, good evening. At May's meeting, the board's feedback was sought on the proposed schedule for our 2023 budget process, and it was approved. And so at this meeting, the idea is just to kind of discuss potential 2023 projects, because next month I'll be bringing you your 2022 budget and where we are with spending so that you can get a better idea of where things are. But right now, I'd like some feedback on potential projects so that we can be thinking about that as well as we review our spending next month, if that makes sense. So given the schedule, I'd like to know at this meeting what projects should be pursued for 2023, like this covered bridge. These are the types of things. And so the timing of this is great. And the feedback that we heard about the Riverwalk. These are different things that I wanted us to talk about to see, what is the appetite for next year. A decision on the next phase of wayfinding will be needed prior to budget submission as well, because all of our projects are scheduled to be wrapping up this year, except for wayfinding, the next phase. So my question for you is, based on the master plan and the recent feedback that I just discussed, what project or projects would the board like to pursue in 2023, or just kind of start as a short list, kind of a brainstorm, so that then we can whittle it down over the next couple of months as we're going through our budget and just thinking about things and feasibility. But, what is kind of your dreams right now?
So just throw them out there.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to see the art by Marion Reynolds that is up on the Eldora property, figured out where it can go, and how to do that. And I would like to discuss that. I'm meeting with a private landowner this Friday, and I would like to toss that out and see if they're interested.
Okay.
So it would be right in town. So we can figure out where that should go.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going anywhere,
Yeah.
but it would be good for it to go somewhere.
Okay.
Ron, do you want to?
Yeah, I think we should do a parking project, not a study, in conjunction with the town, and perhaps include Eldora in the process.
Do you have a specific area or a project in mind, or is this just you want to do something with parking?
Yes, I do.
Okay. What would that be, just so that we have a better idea?
Well, I think Eldora still needs employee parking, and regardless of how it's done, at least working with them in some manner to have that happen.
To find a site, is that what you're thinking? Or?
Yeah, I think
okay.
Timed parking needs to be explored and tried, not studied, tried. And everybody who has parking should be included in the project.
Do you just want to go this way, since we're kind of... Steve Roundtree, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of trying to do something around parking as a solution as opposed to a study. I think that Ron kind of hits that. I think in all of the surveys and everything that comes up, it's one of those things. It's a known issue. So if there's something actionable that could be done.
We lost sound on the computer.
It's that time of day, I think. I'm running out of steam. So I think something that potentially improves or increases actual parking spaces could be a really great project. Anything along the creek that moves in a direction of kind of a cohesive feel on both sides, I think would be a positive. And I think from all the planning documents, it's come up in different ways tonight, but the conversation of some type of secondary bridge, and whether that's a pedestrian bridge or an emergency bridge, pedestrian bridge, but trying to move in the direction of moving past talking about something about that. I think that's a win for the town, no matter what. So I would add that to the mix as well. I think those feel like some things that could be good items to work on.
Thank you. Andrew?
I guess this kind of goes to the performance space, committee, but that's where my mind has been at lately. And I'd like, to figure out, maybe try to get some funds for a feasibility study. And I realized that power is already down there, and like people said, this is where the performance space is going. But driving by it, with the reservoir full, half of it's, a pond. And I know that the intention was to bring grade up, but I'm also thinking, like, what is the city of Boulder's property line with the reservoir? And, is it
about a third of the way into the lake?
Well, I mean, like up, towards the currently, at full level, the water's halfway into what I've heard and been shown is the space for the performance space. And, is it going to be a massive, large civil engineering scope to build grade up and deal with that? And how close is what does town have to, so I guess I'm trying to, a lot of this would come out of a feasibility study, but I don't know if that's, seems like silly to ask at this point in the game when power is already brought down there. Maybe this information's out there and I just haven't seen it yet. But to me, I'm looking at where the water is and thinking about, okay, what is the city of Boulder's interest at shoreline, and, how could a performance space interface with city of Boulder, Barker Reservoir? And then, to what extent is the civil engineering going to be involved in this I know there's going to be a lot, but, just I'm trying to wrap my head around how that works with Barker full, which I think is how you have to design this, so a feasibility study, I guess, is
Great.
what I'd like to see happen.
But what I'm hearing is keeping that performance space project on the radar of the DDA.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
And Barb, do you have any more?
Just an additional one would be additional beautification in downtown, including the shopping center and other places. It's really great to have the covered bridge and, the big barrels, but the whole town could kind of use a spruce up.
Okay.
And it would be nice to have that included.
Okay.
Yeah, just to tag on to what Barb said, there is so much opportunity for beautification. We just need the right person to take it by the helm and let's do it. Like, whether it's additional planters, putting annuals back over at the shopping plaza and finding a cost-effective way to water them, I'm sorry. Public art, lots of opportunity for more public art, more money, more art, maybe sculptures. I mean, there's tons of stuff we can do. At one time, we had a Chamber of Commerce. We really don't have an organization that is supporting our local businesses and advertising them in a cohesive way. And I think the DDA really should think about spearheading that, or maybe there's someone who has some expertise in that that could really bring that on as a new project. I really think that Nederland as a tourist destination could really use some help. And maybe the DDA is the organization to help do that, since they are funded by the commercial tax from the commercial businesses. I'm trying to think of what else. But just keeping on our existing projects. I'm excited to see wayfinding, and if there are any public meetings that happen when I'm not doing field work in the summer, I would love to participate. But we'll see. So that's
Thank
it.
you.
Okay, thanks, Rhea.
Steve Carell?
Yeah, I don't have really any other projects to add to that. I think the one thing maybe is when we discuss the budget for wayfinding, in addition to the phase 2, is put some money in for an app, if even as a space holder, so that we're not fighting the budget battle with that
Exactly.
if we decide on it.
Danielle?
Things that are coming to mind are the Riverwalk and
Danielle?
how Nederland, oh, can you hear me?
It's like, where'd they go?
Sorry. Things that are coming to mind are the Riverwalk and how Nederland Public Art wants to be involved with that. We are thinking about the sculptures. Thank you for bringing up the sculptures from Eldora. I definitely want to help support you guys with the other projects that are already going on. I don't really want to bring more projects to the table other than what we're focused on and seeing what Nederland Public Art comes up with for next year. But until then, I'm happy to just use my brain power for what we're doing now. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine?
Oh, I love some of the beautification projects going on. I love that Nederland is quirky and rustic, but sometimes it comes off looking more dingy. And so that's where having some of these plants and different things put in there somehow at least make the town look cared for and loved and everything. And so, you know, I don't want to lose the rustic, but I do want to make it as attractive as possible. That would be my short-term goal, but my most passionate goal long-term has always been trying to, again, get not just one, but actually 2 additional crossings across the bridge. In my work, I got the opportunity to talk to lots of people. I mean, every day I've got hands-on people and we're discussing things. And, you know, like Kathleen had referred to, when you have people in your brick and mortar business, you hear what the residents want. You hear sometimes what the people passing through think. And so I also had been talking to people in one case, like Mark Smith, who's no longer with us. He's no longer alive, but he had very strong and founded opinions about having 2 crossings going across in 2 different areas. And, you know, talking to his widow about what he knew about, you know, where the ground is wet, where there's an underground lake, where there's this, where there's that, but 2 feasible areas to cross across, so we don't just have the highway. And maybe one would only be used for emergency and pedestrians and everything. And I think that's long overdue. And it's something that I feel strongly and passionately about. And I would love to see at least one of those get past the talking about stage, to where if we couldn't break ground, we could at least agree what we're going to do and where we're going to start.
Thank you.
Tanya.
All right.
Tanya.
Oh, I'm sorry. Trustee Corvallin.
Oh, hi. Well, I would always support anybody on the endeavor for a second bridge. And I also would love to see a river walk, which would also combine public art. Love to see, I know the Weir is so tricky because it belongs to Boulder, I guess, but that Weir needs to be changed, and the whole ability to make a river walk that loops in a full circle, that's stroller, wheelchair accessible-ish, would be great. And then the performance space, I do want to get a meeting together. I haven't been. Last time Andrew and I went, the lake reservoir was not full, and so I am gonna go check that out this week to see what the water line is and how that would affect the amount of available space. but I think we need to bring festivals back to this community, music, and having a dedicated performance space for that would be the first step. So those are, obviously that's a lot right there. So thanks.
Thank you. All right, well, that helps me kind of put things together for next month, because like I said, it's going to be more of where we are, but I'll have those projects in your mind, put them in the packet so that we're keeping that through our discussions for the next couple of months as we're figuring out where we want to spend our money for 2023. So thank you all.
Great, thanks, Kate. And our last discussion item is the proposed increase to the certificate of deposit, and this is Ron.
This is just repeating what we've done before. Money is a depreciating asset. It's wise to take excess money that you don't immediately need and invest it so that you get less depreciation and you would having it getting no interest. So this proposal, which I'd like to move at this point to an action item, is to move some of our funds, about half, to where we have a total of $750,000 in a CD. As far, it won't cost us anything because we already paid the front end fee, and back our line of credit with it and increase our line of credit to $750,000, so that in our next budget year, we can borrow money for projects one day, pay it back the next, and have far less complicated bookkeeping and so forth than we have now. So I move that we increase our certificate deposit to $750,000 and concurrently our line of credit to the same amount.
So I have a couple of questions and comments that I want to make clear for the board. So in our treasurer's report, you'll see in our citywide operating, which is our operating account, which we've already moved all of our current project funding into because we've gone to the Board of Trustees, we have $653,204. So that is not money that we can move to a CD because we're using it, we've planned it, that's what that is for. Our citywide TIF only has $458,348. So that would be the pot that we would ideally, if this is approved, move funding from. But right now we don't have $500,000 in
We'll
there.
add that to 400,000.
That's where we are. We haven't, we get monthly our money from the county, so it's not like we have all the money that we would have through the year yet. So that's why we would never want to take anything from our operating. It would need to come from our TIF. The other thing is that we've already agreed to how we loan money with the town, and we've talked about in an IGA, we may change things because we found out that we don't technically have to loan from anywhere. We want to have that option with town when we don't have money, but we do have money right now. So we could just pay ourselves, but that's a whole separate conversation. But I do want to bring that up just because Ron did bring up about loaning, that potentially we wouldn't really need to do that in the future when we discuss an IGA with this new Board of Trustees. However, that's not what it is, and what we have decided and what we said we do with town is that we do go for a loan from them, and they give us the money, we pay them back, and we pay $50 for that. So that's our current structure. So I just wanted to put that information out there for you all as you discuss this or decide to move it to action or what you decide to do tonight.
So we really only have about 400,000 that we could add, so that'd make it 650 rather than the 750.
Kate, does that include the 10,000 that we have now committed to?
Right.
The
So
transportation plan?
So no, that hasn't been moved over yet. That would, and like we said, we don't actually have that. We would have to go for a budget supplemental from town, but they were, but I'm sorry, it's that time of the night where I'm having trouble. But Trustee Blackmore said that that just needed to be considered for 2023 budget. So that would be something that, as we continue these conversations and we heard from the Board of Trustees, I would put it into your budget packet that, hey, we said we were going to do this as well. So we'll need to ask for that as part of our 2023 budget.
Great, thank you. Do you want to go around the circle and everybody have their comments? You want to start, Steve?
So Ron, I just want to clarify from your understanding with,
Steve, could you get a little closer to the mic?
yeah, from your understanding with Sunflower, right, is where we have our current CD. Are you saying that we could increase that CD, certificate of deposit, to by 400,000 with no additional cost because we've already paid that origination fee on it?
Yes.
Okay. And then what about if we increased our line of credit for the full amount?
Yes, that's the idea. That's our bargaining power, giving them the money for the CD. They in turn give us the line of credit.
Okay. And so there wouldn't be any net cost. It would just be a higher interest rate than we're currently getting.
If there is, we're not going to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. That was my only clarification.
Great, thanks, Rhea. And do you have any comments?
My only comment is if we can leverage our unused money to be earning more interest, it's a good idea. All things aside, I'll stay out of the details.
Thank you. And Andrew?
No, I think, getting more interest on the money is a good idea. I do think that getting some clarity on town, loaning or not loaning and us doing our own thing is important. But that's a separate conversation. But in the meantime, I think also having a, better line of credit and times when they're, we can do that is a good idea. So, I'd be supportive of moving. How much did you say was I know it was 400 and change, and you said keeping, what was the change amount?
So we have right now $458,348.48.
Okay, so it'd leave about 58,000 left, and
Which was another question that we had received. Is there a penalty? What would the penalty be for taking money from that CD, since we wouldn't have very much available? Because, we have to pay back town for everything. So next year for our budget, we would need to be able to have access to funds to pay back, especially if we do.
That's what the line of credit is for. That's what we don't pay it out.
But the line of credit, we're paying interest on the credit.
Yeah. So what are the penalties in that if we start having to move money around because we've taken basically all of our wiggle room and put it in a CD?
The line of credit you would be charged interest on a daily basis for as long as you used it. So next month we'll get TIF funds of probably.
But
whatever.
say we say that we want to do, like, I'm thinking of Big Springs, and if we had done this before Big Springs, we had to write a check back to town within 30 days. We have to pay town back in 30 days. That's our agreement. And we had to write a $358,000 check to them. Now, if we don't have any of that available now, and I'm having to go to the line of
I thought you
credit.
said it was in the operating account. I thought you said.
It is. I'm just using that as an example. If we were in that situation and I didn't have it in the account like I normally do, because normally what happens, just for everybody's edification, is when we receive the loan from town, I go and I write a check from our citywide TIF account and back to town. And then it goes into our operating account. That's how the check from town goes into our operating. So that's how it works. So when I need to pay back town in 2023 for our projects that we take loans out of, I might only have $80,000 at that point in January or February. So that's when we will be having conversations about this credit line potentially. So I just want to make, all of that known in talking about this.
Okay, well, the idea is to balance what the excess cash we have with the income that's coming in from the tax base, which comes in, the bulk of it comes, I think, in April or May, when the county gets most of its funds. But there's delinquencies that are paid off that come during the rest of the year. So,
and like in year end, we'll sometimes get big bumps as well.
Yeah, year end we'll get people paying their taxes, so we get a bump on our income at that period of time. The penalty is simply just paying the interest on the line of credit. And then as the money comes in, we can pay off the line of credit. back to where
I-
it belongs.
I-
In other words, we're not going to lose money under any circumstances.
Well, I think
doing
that
this.
my question, or to say it another way, is, what happens when there's a project or projects that come up that we want to, through after action items and it's voted and it's a $150,000 project, and we, let's say, only have, 50,000 of it, and because the CD, the terms have it for 2 years, is it a 2-year?
The 2-year CD.
So if the funds are locked up for 2 years and we need, let's just round number, 200,000, which is locked up, and we're going to be paying 5% interest on 200,000 when, 400,000 or 650,000 is only earning, 1.5%. I guess that's the thing, is like, is it worth it to earn 1.5%, but then potentially have to pay 5 or 6% on 150,000 for 4 or 5 months or 6 months while waiting to pay that off?
I think the answer to that is no, it's not worth it. But you're still having, that ignores the fact you're still going to be having income coming in during the year to pay off whatever that.
But our income, last year, I think when I worked with Rita on this last year, we only estimated about $36,000 for this year. So it's not like we're getting $100,000 a year.
Well, we get 300,000 a year.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, you're right. It's 336,000, I think, was the number
That's right.
that we
That's
get a
right.
year. I'm sorry, I misspoke. But I think the year before, we didn't even see, so now that I'm remembering from last year, so pardon me, because this is my first full year doing this. The estimates before were very low. And it's been hard, I think, for everyone to track about how much we're getting each year, because I think it does fluctuate, given that some people go delinquent and all of those other factors. And so I know Rita this year worked very hard on giving a truer picture, and that's why we got to that big number. But that's not always what's seen. So that's why in my mind, I'm keeping more conservative. So I apologize for the late hour and saying the wrong number, but it was $336,000 for this year. And that was kind of like best case scenario. Sometimes it's in the ones. I've seen the previous year, it was 200 something thousand that you all received. And so that's where Rita and I are doing a job now of kind of tracking what we're getting so that we can give you better estimates this summer for the budget to see what you're actually going to get in this year.
So part of the concept here, as we've talked before, is that you're building a line of credit that allows you perhaps to expand it. Should say we have a project that comes along that is a really good one, looks like it, we all approve, it's going to cost $1 million. So we could back that with paid back our credit. The big thing is to use the line of credit and pay it back so that you actually establish corporate credit. And that's part of, when I originally presented this, and when we did it the first time, half of the reason is to be able to have independent credit where we could increase and leverage our ability to do a major project. Now, maybe we'll never do a major project and we'll never need it, but I hope we have a major project that we do need it for. So that's part of the thing. It's not just the interest, and it's not just, and we can't take a project on that we know our income won't pay for, unless that project within itself pays for the project, and that's a possibility.
Yeah, and Ron, I'm definitely supportive of the idea of CDs. I think my thing I'm trying to get at is, what is the board comfortable with? Is their number not being encumbered in a 2-year CD, and how much do we want left in the pot to be able to work with? And if it's like Big
Still
Springs,
technically all in the pot.
right?
You can use it all if you want to.
Yeah, I understand.
You can forfeit the interest on the CD. If you have a project that's so lucrative and so good that you want to cash out the CD, you forfeit some of the interest on the CD for sure. So you can lose that if the benefit is greater than what you're going to lose. And that's conceivable. Who knows what kind of project might drop in our lap that we would want $1 million and,
Yeah.
and cash out our CD and say, sorry, we need the money.
The immediate thing that comes to mind is what are the potential cost overruns of Big Springs parking?
Yeah.
That, is $50,000 enough or whatever that number was. And, I would, I don't know. I would say that maybe,
I'm constantly cautioning about that.
yeah, maybe 250,000 into the CD makes more sense than 400,000 for now. I don't know.
Another 250,000,
Yeah.
bring it up to 500,000.
Yeah. And I'm all for the concept to inch it up. I just don't know if I think everyone's a little.
I will concede to lower it to 250,000 because of your skepticism.
Yeah, it's not skepticism. I think it's.
All right, so I revised the motion to take 250,000 of our current TIF funds that are not drawing interest and put them into a new CD, which would be 500,000, and increase our line of credit to 500,000.
And is this a discussion item or an action
It is
item?
actually still a discussion item, and we need to ask everybody else.
I would like to move it to an
Catherine.
action item.
I have a
Go ahead.
question.
Yeah. Yes.
So next month, we're going to talk through and review where we're at with the 2022 budget
Yep.
and current spending.
Yeah.
Is there potential that a month from now that we have better information to make a decision on this?
So I can bring you back next month how much money we've gotten from the treasurer so that you have an idea of where we are 6 months in. Because off the top of my head, just from deposits that I know, we've only gotten about $60,000 or $70,000 at this point. So that's so just so that you know, like how it trickles in a little bit. And I'm starting to see it now too as I'm following it. And so I can try to give a better idea of that for you to help with that picture, if that's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're trying to like make a decision without, I'm just going to say like a cash flow analysis
Yeah,
of what's
okay.
coming in and what are we committed to spending.
Okay.
So that we feel like if we're making a decision like this, we're making a
See,
decision.
what
with
we're
good
committed to
information.
spending, we have in the operating account now.
Okay.
But I can give you a better idea of what you're asking for. But yes, everything that we're committed to for 2022 is already in our operating account. So the TIF account is the account that we're talking about lessening, and that's where our future money comes from.
Okay.
Is that kind of helpful?
Yeah.
So everything for this year is we've already done our loans and repaid them to town. So we're in a great position, and that's why that citywide account is so big, because all the money for Big Springs is sitting in there.
Including the overage the
Mhm.
possibilities.
Yeah, everything that we've approved has been moved over into there, that we have a resolution for.
This is excess cash that is not committed.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to move it to be an action item for 250,000. No second?
It's still a discussion, but I would say that I think it's not something that's urgent to do tonight, and it's super late, but also we'll have the budget numbers and things like that next month. So why don't we discuss it tonight and then bring it back as an action item on the agenda next month?
Okay.
I would agree with that.
Motion withdrawn.
Part of the reason I would like to, I would like
Does
to get-
anyone on the online have a question or a comment? Tanya and Catherine and Danielle, I'm assuming
Can
you're
you
still
hear me?
there online.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was talking away, but anyhow, yeah, I'd like to wait till next month till we have hard and fast numbers, including I'd like to know what the interest rate would be on the CD and what the interest rate would be on the line of credit, because we do run the potential that maybe we end up having to carry some debt on the line of credit for a little while, but I don't like to go all in. And so, at least a lower amount is makes me a little bit less squeamish. But I would like to have the hard and fast numbers first. I'd like to have the budget, where we know pretty accurately what we're going to have to spend and what money is going to come in, and then then we can make an informed decision to pick an amount if we want to do this. I mean, obviously, an interest, a 1.5% is not a compelling interest to me.
Thank you, Catherine. And do you have any comments, Danielle?
the idea of bringing this back again, knowing what we're going to be looking at more clearly and not making such a decision so late, but it seems like it's a good idea.
Great, thank you. And Tanya?
Yeah, I agree with Danielle, what she just said. I personally don't have a lot of experience with investment and these sort of math equations that's been happening right now. So I would pretty much defer to you guys on whatever people want to do if there was a choice tonight. But I'm also thinking it could wait if that's what everybody else thinks.
Great, thank you. And is there any public comment? Hearing and seeing none, it looks like the direction that the board has is to bring it back next month as an action item with answers to the questions that everyone asked. If there are any additional questions, email them to Kate
Yes, please.
so we can
And
follow
if you
up.
have any, so this is, we have QuickBooks. You bought me QuickBooks last year. So this is the first time that I'm going to fully use its fun capabilities because Rita helped me set up the projects a little bit differently so that a cash flow analysis is a lot easier. You can see by project, where before it was just kind of a big lump sum. Now you can see where we are spending in each project. And so those are the types of reports that I'm going to run for you next month that'll hopefully get to some of these questions. And then you can make the decision about if and when, how much you would want to move to a CD.
Well, I'd like to make a comment here. If nobody anticipates a major project where we need to borrow funds in excess of what we have, that are going to be paid off either through the income of that project itself or additional funds as the years roll by and we get the tax money. And this is an exercise in futility. So you've got to decide. And you've made the point to make a decision on it next meeting. So that's my recommendation. There will be large projects that will come, and I think you need to be prepared for it. And I don't think you want to be reliant on the town of Nederland to loan $1 million or $2 million, whatever the project is, because that's a whole different political realm of people who are not in business in the DDA district. And I think that kind of project would be met with the ultimate of skepticism. So that's my recommendation for the next meeting.
Great, thank you. That wraps up our discussion items. Is there any other business? Hearing and seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Andrew.
Second.
Thanks, Steve. Bye, everybody.
Thank you all.
Good night.
And good night.